This episode of the Co-Optional Podcast is proudly sponsored by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain name, website, or online store, make your next move with squarespace.com/cooptional. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Co-Optional Podcast, here on the 14th of February 2017.
What up?
Hello.
I like the enthusiasm. It's great.
He's got many enthusiasts.
He's very enthused.
I mean, I'm halfway through the coffee, and I'm just like, I need this right now.
That's coffee.
Yeah.
I'm trying to guess.
Mhm.
I haven't had caffeine in like 4 months, so I really crave it.
I need it.
Did you make a conscious decision of like, I'm not gonna have caffeine anymore?
For a while, I kicked sodas for like a year, and then I just started drinking soda again. I was like, that was a really dumb idea. So then I stopped drinking soda, and then I was like, what if I just cut caffeine? And then I was miserable for about 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would wake up and feel like pretty all right throughout the day in terms of energy levels. So I just stopped drinking caffeine entirely. So
Nice.
it's
I
not
haven't had
bad.
a soda in a while, and I'm like, I should keep this going and just not drink soda.
Yeah. Anytime I like think about caffeine, I just wonder like, because you drink so much caffeine, right? And it just doesn't affect you. You have to drink more
Right.
caffeine for it to affect you, right?
You gotta
No, I
keep it light.
Yeah. Now I just wonder like, if I have a Red Bull, do I just explode? Like, what happens to me?
It's
Probably
possible.
make you weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Is my heartbeat just gonna go all the way up?
You gain most superpowers.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take you back to a radio lab that was about this, but it was about drug overdosing and how most drug overdoses happen after a person has tried to quit. And apparently the way it works is like, and it works with caffeine and everything, that when you get off something, like you're into caffeine, right? You love caffeine.
Sure.
Have this habit of, I drink like 10 energy drinks a day or whatever. When you stop, your body's like, okay, shit, yeah, like let's take it down a notch. All right, this is great. But your habits, should you ever get back into it, you are now on, like, you go back immediately to that 10 a day vibe, and your body is not ready. So the minute you jump back in, you overdose because your body can't compensate for the fact that you are no longer on it. So it happens it happens all the time that way.
It's like a weird mental habit that just stays in stasis, like waiting for you to come back.
So your mentality is like, oh, well, we're going to go right back where we were, buddy. It's going to be great. But your body, because you've been off it so long, is just like, what the hell are you doing? And then and you overdose on it. Like, that's how it happens. It's crazy.
Yep. Your body says, you know what happens? You know what happens when you go back into caffeine after leaving it for so long? You know what happens? Well, Jesse, you just made the list.
Of Jericho?
The list of Jericho. You just made that list.
I'm not sure I understand.
No, I didn't imagine you did.
Jericho. Is it like the walls of Jericho?
It's just like that, yeah.
It is kind of like that, but it is a list of people who may be put in the walls of Jericho at some point.
I'm not sure
for whatever
I understand.
reasons. But
That's
you're on it
Imagine
now.
a wall, but it's made of like scantily clad wrestlers.
Yes, for the most part. But you have now just made the list along with everyone else on this show. Yep,
Wait,
I did spend $20
Wait, me?
on a fucking
Come
clipboard.
on now. I didn't do nothing.
You know what happens when you complain about the list, Dodger? You know what happens? You just made the list!
You can put on the list. Okay,
But
fine.
is it a walls of Jericho thing? Because I need to know.
Yes.
Are we going to get flagged for breaking the walls down right now?
If it's WWE, you absolutely will.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
2000, maybe 1994. I don't know when the Chris Jericho theme song was.
All that sounds like is just a mash of
It just
crap.
sounds-
Like,
just noise coming out of your phone. There's not a song there. It's just noise.
I spent
That's
$25 for a fucking
what his
clipboard for
intro
this
is.
gag.
A guy screams, "Break the walls,
Walls
down!" And then
down.
it's literally
Yeah.
nonsense.
Yeah.
It's
Well, it's because he's walking down to the fucking ring.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I've actually been
I'm
listening to
trying-
his audiobook over the past few days. He's extremely funny and has a lot of stories, let me put it that way, including the time when they went to Iraq and had to shoot a bunch of rabid dogs that were attacking them. And all
nice.
sorts of other crazy shit. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, there's some pretty crazy stuff in there. But he's a very funny guy. Yes, I spent $25 on a fucking clipboard just for this visual gag that none of you, of course, would have got because you don't watch wrestling, but it's okay.
Yeah.
This is a dog
It's
whistle.
not for us. It's not for us.
It's for them. It's a dog whistle for others.
Break the walls down. Look, that's all I know.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
What the
break
fuck?
the walls
is
down.
The Rock had some very, very bad theme music at some
I
points.
had a 1 hour loop of like one of his theme songs on my
What the
iPod
fuck?
when I was younger.
Look, here's the
He
thing.
had some
Back
great
when I
music,
was
and some
super
of it was
into
terrible.
wrestling.
Some of it was terrible.
People forget that during the really late 90s, like 98,
Yeah.
99, early 2000s, legitimate recording artists did the intros
Yes.
for, and they were actually real songs, and some of
Yeah.
them are actually really good. So,
Yeah.
I can understand how someone would have it on their
Well, also late 90s,
iPod.
like the idea that people wouldn't know or be interested in like who The Rock or Stone Cold were is insane because it was huge. Like
they were
around
massive,
then.
yeah.
Yeah, they were pulling in Raw was like peaking out at like ratings of 7. Like a 7.1, 7.2.
People.
No. Nielsen ratings for fuck's
Thank you,
sake.
Dodger.
You know, they were like they
Good
were
goofs,
global.
good goofs, everybody.
It was
Wink, wink.
it was huge. It was absolutely massive. Like it's not as big as it was by any stretch, but like yeah, I mean I remember at school in particular, you know, you were either a Rock guy or a Stone Cold guy. And
Yes.
arguments were had.
Sorry, Dwayne, you're awesome, but come on,
Stone Cold might have been the cooler guy.
great.
Yeah,
Was-
Just because he drank a lot of beer. And that was cool.
he did.
Let's be real.
You know what, JP, you're absolutely right. When it came down to it as a kid, you were like, that guy's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because he
pretty
drank
much.
beer on there and you're like, that's pretty cool.
I just liked the random times when the Undertaker showed back up, and I was like,
Yeah.
"It's the Undertaker!"
Oh, no,
It
no.
still
Sting
happens.
showing up.
That
still
Sting
happens.
showing up was the best in the biz.
Raptors.
That's
and
true.
shit.
From the rafters, when that shit happened, I would
WCW?
lose my
Yeah.
fucking shit.
that,
That's
that
still one of
was
my
awesome.
favorite memes now, too.
Which one? There's several Sting related ones.
Sting from the rafters.
Oh, Sting from the rafters, okay.
It happened again during the Super Bowl because it was Lady Gaga from the rafters.
Ah,
right, that's
okay.
right. Yeah.
That shit cracked me up. It's
I don't think
always-
it's quite as good as what he did later on. There's a guy called Rob Van Dam, and
I know who that is.
yeah, you know who Rob Van Dam is. He's a great guy. Unfortunately, keeps getting busted for weed, so can never keep a job in any of the wrestling businesses. But he shows up at a show, I think it was TNA or whatever, and he's like high-fiving the crowd and shit. And then a guy with a Sting mask hits him in the face from the crowd with a chair, taking off the Sting mask to reveal that it is
Sting
actually
mask?
Sting.
Sting.
Yes, it was Sting in the Sting mask. Yeah,
perfect.
It was perfect.
Also, can we take a moment to salute the WCW for giving us so many great years of
hmm
wonderful, like NWO, get out of town.
NWO. 's pretty
NWO,
good.
man.
That shit was great.
Best-selling T-shirt of one of the best-selling T-shirts of all time. Like for anything ever, NWO
Really?
T-shirt. Yeah,
I guess that makes sense.
they made a
then had
shit
the
ton of money.
cheese to be like, there's a red version of it now.
Oh,
Yeah.
NWO Wolfpack, NWO Hollywood.
Fuck.
Well, it's
Yeah.
once the entire company was in the NWO that the whole thing started to become a little silly.
I remember like what they got like Hulk Hogan at the end. Or no, he was one of the originals.
Well,
wasn't he?
yeah, it was him. Yeah,
Was
it was,
Triple H one of the ones that they got towards the end?
no.
Triple H was always.
He was always on. Who? I'm trying
He
to
actually
think.
was not.
Really?
Here's my wrestling nerd fact. He used to be WCW as Terror Rising.
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Terror space Rising, spelled RYZING. He had
Yes.
this ridiculous blonde, like hair metal. I don't even know what it was. It was a
That's
creature in and of itself.
He became the least interesting member of Generation X.
Oh yeah, that is
Oh,
true.
Generation X. that's
Yeah.
right.
When I was in high school, there was a kid in my PE class who used to pick on me all the time, and he would call me Booker T.
How is that picking on
What?
you?
Why would he call you Booker T?
I
Were
don't
you
know.
just like, I'm not Booker T. That's not my
Swole,
name. And he
I
just kept
guess.
with it? Okay.
Swole,
Alright.
a world champion and extremely successful at what you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Amazing.
also apparently fit in lockers because that's what I did. Was fit in lockers.
Booker T definitely did not fit in any lockers. There's no doubt about that. I think the
Yeah.
person that bullied you was really
Yeah,
stupid.
yeah, that kid was just an idiot. Don't worry
He
about
was.
that.
He
You're in a better
was.
place now.
Did people put you in lockers?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Really?
Like,
I, didn't
honestly,
know- I thought that was just a thing on TV.
if
Because
Uh-oh.
I fit. No.
shit,
'cause
shit's
I
about to go
fit.
down.
There was
I didn't
one
know that
time when I
actually
got put in a
happened.
locker and then it was break time and I was just like knocking on the back of the locker like, can somebody let me out?
Oh god, I think I have a feeling that he's going to find a locker.
Okay.
Let's give him our hug.
I mean,
I didn't know that actually happened to real people.
that-
Yeah.
apparently that was a
Like a
real
TV
thing.
gag.
In the UK, we didn't really have lockers at school, so we heard about that and we thought it was just a TV thing, like that wasn't actually real. But yeah, apparently so.
Oh shit! Today I
That was
learned I know someone who was put in
Kids
lockers.
actually got put in lockers, yeah.
Indeed.
If they were small enough.
Yes.
They got
Also,
put in lockers.
we can announce, by the way, that Dodger's Crackle should be gone by next week. The new audio interface literally just arrived 15 minutes ago,
Literally
late.
during soundtrack.
Yeah, it was
Soundtrack.
supposed to arrive several days ago, but yeah, we apologize for that. It's just an issue with the sound card. It's going to get fixed by next week. But welcome to the Co-OOptional Podcast. We do occasionally talk about video games, and our sponsor this week is the ever-glorious Squarespace. Squarespace.com/cooptional. Head over there for not only 10% off your first order, but now a free trial as well. Yes, indeed. Squarespace.com/cooptional. Go and make a website. You don't have any talent, but they do, and they can help you. So head on over to squarespace.com/cooptional. They are our ever-loving and ever-loyal sponsors that keep this show running. So thank you very much to them.
Yay.
Let's talk about video games we've been playing this week. I like how we just didn't have to introduce JP at all because he is Mr. Twitch.
Oh.
Oh, that's like his
Oh.
wrestling.
Oh
I'll
my
add that to
god.
my.
This is-
Is it official?
Mr.
Yeah, I'm gonna add that to my
Twitchamania.
card.
Mr. Twitch.
Mr.
I-
Twitch.
I just-
That's right.
For the
There's a
longest
love
time that
ceremony.
Twitch has been around, like I've just associated it with you because you've, especially like this form of panel show, because you basically invented it and then we stole it. You invented it with State of the Game. We nicked it and then turned it into the most popular gaming podcast on
What?
YouTube.
No, that's
We
not
did
true.
not. We did not do that.
We may have.
Respect and love you.
It's all good.
Yes,
It's all good.
and you do like 5,000 roleplay shows and such like that. Everyone knows who JP is. He's been on the show many, many times before. He is, of course, back mostly to talk a lot about For Honor and Neo because he's been playing a lot of that as well. We've got a ton of games to talk about this week, and we'll also be wrapping up the news. We'll no doubt go in a little bit on Twitch communities because they're so amazing, aren't they?
Oh
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah, we'll talk a
I'm
little bit
excited
about
for
that. But I would just because I want people to not ask us, because I know it's going to come up, we are not talking about the PewDiePie Disney thing. We're not doing it. We've got nothing to say on that subject.
But we will talk about John Wick 2. Go see that movie.
Which was so great.
Fuck. I haven't.
It's so
I-
good.
I was talking about this
Maybe better
yesterday
than
on.
the first one.
Yeah,
It may in fact be the best video game movie ever made.
I was gonna go this morning.
I need to go see it. I haven't seen it yet.
I had this whole thing yesterday on Court of Swords in the pre-show where I was gonna go see 50 Shades of Grey at 10 a.m. because I want to see who's at the theater at 10 a.m. watching 50 Shades of Grey on Valentine's Day. And then,
Why, my.
and then I want to see John Wick 2 in the afternoon to see who's at the theater seeing John Wick 2 on Valentine's Day.
Couples, I would imagine.
I
Yeah.
avoided watching the
Right.
original John Wick for so long because of, it's barely even a spoiler these days, but I'll just be respectful of it regardless. The thing that happens, which very much upsets me, but I eventually did go and see it, and it was great, and so
It's a great movie.
I'm looking
yeah.
forward to seeing number 2. It
I really
will
wanna see it.
hopefully be great.
And if you can't handle John Wick, you should go see Lego Batman. No joke.
I heard that was great too.
I heard that was also great.
I'm gonna say this: best portrayal of Batman on film. I'm not even joking.
Really?
Really?
I'm not even joking. It is to the heart of that character in a way that I was like, get the fuck. They actually made a good movie. I'm not kidding. Zero
Wow.
joke. It is.
That's
it is
that's awesome.
super entertaining. The first 20 minutes alone, you'll be like, this might be the best. It's laugh after laugh after laugh, and it's all like,
Huh.
but really hammering it home the fact that the bat, like, DC sucks. Oh god, it's good.
I mean, that's the reason why the games are so good. They're really awesome because they're great for kids to play. But the actual cutscenes and the humor is very, very funny, especially if you're into the source material. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I might go see that one then. But yeah, we've got tons of games to talk about this week, and hell, we might not even have to resort to mobile this week. So.
Oh my god, nonsense.
Indeed. But let's start with an hour of Fire Emblem Heroes. We're not doing it. We're not starting with mobile. Not happening.
I did. Oh, okay. Never mind.
Well, look, if you're gonna talk about that, let's.
I was
keep
gonna
it to
just
later.
really quickly say that I did wind up playing hours of Potion Explosion.
Oh, okay.
And
well, that's a board game, so that kind of doesn't count.
It's a board game that exists on phones now.
Oh yeah, obviously, if you played hours of it, you were kind of into it then.
I was. Yo, the easy AI bots are fucking hard. I have yet to move on from the easy bots in that game because I keep losing to them, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I need to up my skills.
It's a really awesome game though. It's very, very enjoyable. Yeah, I think my physical copy's supposed to arrive today actually, so I'm looking forward to playing. I was gonna ask if
you got it yet.
Yeah, it's not arrived yet. It was like on a week for shipment or whatever. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing the physical one, just with the actual marbles and the little like wooden box and everything. That's gonna be cool.
What's the name of this game?
Potion Explosion. It's a board game, but it's also available on iOS and Android. Very, very cool board game about mixing potions and shit. Very fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got tons of stuff to talk about this week. So who wants to start? Who wants to go in?
Well, I'm looking at Potion Explosion.
All
so
right. All right. Well, I'll start then. I'll start because this is something you asked me about before the show, and that is Sniper Elite 4.
Yeah. I want to know. I watched an
Indeed.
IGN review. That's my experience with it so far.
You watched an IGN something.
Yeah.
What possessed you?
I wanted to see 4 minutes of Sniper Elite 4 with the score at the end of it. So that was the first thing that came up on Google when I searched for it.
Very specific search.
You want to see so many jump cuts that it doesn't help at all? Yeah.
IGN delivered. It turns out they make that content still. So.
Yeah, they probably the only content they really do make. Actually, yeah, so I played about 2 hours of it on stream yesterday. I was playing the press build, which did not include the day one patch. So I'm going to try it again today to see if it's become a little bit less crash prone. We had several crashes. Not only did we have several crashes, but trying to reload the game after a crash usually resulted in 2 more crashes. So, yeah, it was like third time lucky most of the time. Pretty damn irritating. When the game worked, though, it was a lot of fun. It is extremely gory, as you would expect. It's got that good old X-ray, camera system whereby you see the bullet pass through people's vital organs and testicle shots.
Fuck?
That's Sniper Elite,
shot
man.
through a dude's nuts.
Oh yeah,
that's
testicle shots are a real
Elite,
thing.
man.
Yeah, you get extra points for that. That's totally doable. The game is about pretty much, I'd say, very, very similar to Sniper Elite 3. I feel like the series really got its legs in Sniper Elite 3. 2 had some really cool stuff in it, again, like the camera system and stuff like that, but the level design was very poor. It was very linear, whereas Sniper Elite 3, they went for a more open world, more stealth-orientated approach. Sniper Elite 4, same thing, mostly focused on Italy, which is not necessarily something that you see that often in World War II games. They've just refined a bunch of stuff. The levels are really big. They've got a ton of little side objectives and stuff like that. There's a little bit more terrain traversal stuff. You can like drop down from ledges and catch onto other ledges and stuff. So you've got more options as to how to approach a target. But the first level, I spent a good hour and a half in the first level, just taking my time, doing the little side objectives and all that kind of thing. And then spending about half an hour trying to shoot down a plane with a sniper rifle.
Can you just rewind the video you're playing back
Sure.
to
This is Easy Allies review footage, by the way, so all credit to them for that.
the amazing shots? I need a highlight reel of every time a guy gets shot, it just shows his skeleton and his eyes are just like
Oh yeah. If you,
his eyes
that's what your eyes
trying to
look like
find
in
it.
slow
There we
motion
go.
when a bullet's coming towards you, Jesse. They did the research.
I need like the Benny Hill theme song in the background is just people's testicles explode and their eyes are like.
Well, God, I've got to tell you, man. If the X-ray camera system gets old, it hasn't for me yet. Through 3 games of this shit.
I mean, they kept it there for a reason.
Yeah, it's still good. The nice thing is that it doesn't happen every single time, so you can even customize how often it happens. The custom difficulty is back. They've been doing that since Sniper Elite 2, possibly even the first one. You've got a lot of control over how difficult the game is. So you can customize every aspect of it. It even now has an option for authentic suppressors. So if you have it turned on, it acts like a real suppressor would, as in it suppresses the flash of the shot, and it lowers the sound, but it doesn't eliminate it, because, you can't make silenced bullets like that. But you can also use now suppressed ammunition, which is lower velocity ammo, which has a much bigger bullet fall off and is much harder to hit with, but it's a lot quieter. So you've got a few more options there. There's a lot more gadgets to play around with. And it was just a wonderful little sandbox of sneaking around, picking people off, setting up traps. The AI seems a lot better this time around. They have a new system for hunting you down where they triangulate you over the course of a number of shots. And once they figure out where you are, they are not going to fucking stop until they either run out of people on the map or you manage to lose them. And it's hard to lose them. Once they really get on your tail, you have got to be real sneaky. You've got to get out of there fast. So I was very much enjoying that because it really felt like the AI was smart. And there was one moment that really struck me as something I've never really seen in the game before. I had approached this camp and they had a wooden sort of guard tower. There's no one in the guard tower. I thought, this is a perfect place for me to go. I'm just going to sneak up there. So I thought, hey, I'll also put as I'm going up the stairs, I'll place a trap. I'll place a mine. So here's what happened. They saw me doing that and made for the stairs. I'm like, all right, these idiots are just going to run up straight into my trap. No, they ran up, turned the corner, saw it. They were like, fuck this, went back down, and then just said, oh, the tower's made of wood. We're just going to fucking put as many bullets through the floor as possible until we hit you.
Huh.
So they just riddled the tower with bullets.
That's on like normal difficulty?
That was on normal, yeah. That wasn't even on hard or anything. That was just regular run-of-the-mill difficulty. And they're like, oh, yeah, we can totally just penetrate this wood. Like, why would we go up there? There's no reason for us to go up there whatsoever. And that really struck me as unusually good AI.
Yeah, you don't typically see that. You can just make them run into traps and Hitman all the time. All day.
Yeah. Then they're not dumb. If they see you putting a trap down, they're not going to run into it. And if they realize they don't have to run into a small area where you could just kill them as they rounded the corner, they'll back off and just riddle your little wooden tower with bullets. And that happened in any area where you weren't in really hard cover. They'd realize it wasn't hard cover, and they're like, okay, we're just going to shoot through it then. And you could do the same thing to them. I sniped a few guys through the floor, which was super fucking satisfying.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to mess around with the co-op at all?
No, I didn't, and it's a kind of a shame because I think that's probably where the game will really shine. It's a very fully featured product. They've got full competitive multiplayer with several modes. They have a wave.
I didn't know that.
They do, yeah. They have a wave-based co-op, which is quite similar to the Sniper Elite Zombies thing they've been doing, but it's not with zombies, obviously. They have a regular up to 4-person in the campaign missions co-op, and then they have Sniper Spotter mode, which I think was also in 3 as well, where the 2 of you play as a tandem team, and the powers are split between the 2 of you. So one's a spotter, and he spots for the sniper, and then the sniper takes the shots.
That is actually the dream game that I've been wanting for like 10 years.
Game's got it, yeah.
Yeah, I really want to play that now.
Game's totally got it. I'll say that don't run it in DirectX 12. I don't know if the launch version's any better, but it ran like absolute shit in DX12. Real bad. Yeah, like it was a third.
SLI turned off as well?
Yeah, SLI turned off. It ran at a third of the frame rate that DX11 did. So
did it look that much better?
It actually looked worse. So, no, yeah, I wouldn't. It may very well be a driver or patch issue. As I said, I was playing the press build. But it's basically more of the same of what Sniper Elite 3 provided, but it's in like the Italian countryside and the mountains mostly as opposed to the desert, and they've just refined some of the systems. And I had a lot of fun with it. and I don't think you can shoot the plane down. You can set it on fire and use it as a distraction. You could set their engine on fire, but I don't think you can fully shoot them down, unfortunately. But which was a bit. I mean, obviously, that would be kind of
that makes sense.
silly.
I mean, it's
unless
you could shoot the pilot out. Can you do that? Does it have a pilot that you can shoot out of the
maybe
cockpit?
It might be possible, but bear in mind you're trying to hit a fucking flying plane with a sniper bullet. It's pretty hard. Like
That's true. That's
pretty
true.
hard. Yeah. But as I said, if you like Sniper Elite 3, go for it. If you missed Sniper Elite 3, maybe pick this one up or wait for Sniper Elite 3 to go on sale and then go for 4, because 3 is really good as well. There was not a great deal in 4 so far that I've seen that's a huge improvement over 3, but I will say I think the AI is better, and the levels are maybe even bigger now. So I dig it. I dig it.
Is the co-op the same thing as the single player? It's just co-op?
There's two. Either you can do it in the single player campaign with up to 4 people, or you can do wave-based kind of co-op defense, which is, I assume, that uses part of the maps. But
it's not 2, it's up to 4 people.
Yes, I think I imagine spotter sniper mode is probably 2, but you can actually just have 4 snipers if you want, and just go play Havoc, which it seems like it's quite fun.
Can you do a 2v2 with spotter sniper?
I don't know. That I haven't tried.
That would be like the best thing. Just have 2 teams of 2 sitting on a fucking gigantic map with nothing else there, and you're just looking and waiting. That'd be so fun to play.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's I said I was pleasantly surprised. Other than the instability and the crashing, which hopefully actually doesn't exist in the day 1 patch version, I think that it is a pretty good time. Obviously, I think it's going to get very overshadowed by the fact that For Honor came out this week.
Yeah.
So
most of the stuff will. It's kind of a packed month.
It is actually, very much so.
They should have released next Tuesday, because I think the only thing coming out, we'll get to this at the end of the show, I think, but I think Halo Wars or whatever it's called, the RTS, is the only thing coming out next week. Yeah.
I'm interested in playing that. I did play the Blitz mode for that, which is the weird kind of Clash Royale-esque mode, which is most likely going to have literal microtransactions in a full-priced game that let you buy units and power, which is skeezy as fuck in my eyes. Halo 5 had that too, right? With Warzone.
Yeah.
I wasn't keen on that, but outside of that is the only mode that does that. I might just play it for the campaign. We'll see. I guess we'll move on to For Honor, because, of course, JP and Dodgy have been playing quite a bit of it. And there's a little bit of a disagreement between the two of you, actually. JP, you're not big on it right now, by the looks of it.
Yeah. We should probably start the conversation out with myself and Brooke, as well as about 1 billion of content creators. We got paid to play it. The nice thing is that I wasn't
being the only fucking streamer that wasn't, which is why I didn't stream it. It's like, fuck this.
There was Ubisoft, I think a while back, they had a really large amount of success with the Rainbow Six push like that, where they had a ton of content creators over the course of, I want to say, like 7 or 8. I think I did 8 sponsored streams for that. And I guess it worked out for them because now they did it with For Honor this past week. Or this month with a full-on live event.
2 beta weekends, and it spanned 3 weeks, right?
Yeah. And then they did that big live event in LA.
Right.
So like every motherfucker was paid to play it.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is that we weren't paid to be positive about it, at least for me. I think everyone else is pretty positive about it. But my first time with it was I actually played with Brooke. And I think about an hour in, I stopped talking on her stream because I had muted my mic.
He literally muted himself because he didn't want to be just like spitting vitriol during our stream.
Right. So yeah, I guess I'll let you introduce it, because I have now honed in on what it specifically I don't like. So I'll let you gab about it, and then we'll talk about it.
For Honor is the way that I think of it is it's basically like a fighting game. It has a lot of mechanics to it that are very fighting game-esque. Every class has different combos. It's a lot of like judging what direction your opponent's going to attack from and dodging out of the way and blocking and parrying and things like that. It's Vikings versus Samurai versus Knights. And as of right now, there are 12 classes that you can play?
Yeah, in the betas there was 9, and they just added the 3 new classes yesterday today in the full release.
Right. So most of what people have seen is Dominion mode, which is like a capture the flag sort of deal. That's 4v4. You can choose whatever class you want to be. You don't have to be like, okay, everybody has to be Vikings or everybody has to be Knights. You can be whatever you want. Your composition can be whatever you like. And then, yeah, that's the main mode that for some reason a lot of people have been playing, but I honestly don't think that it's the best mode. Where the game really shines for me is in duels.
That starts to be a prevailing opinion now, I think, after
I
people have
agree
played
with
quite
it,
a bit
too.
of it. Because the Dominion mode has AI in it, and they're sort of just, they're cannon fodder for the most part. But from my understanding, quite a few people are a bit miffed with Dominion because there's a lot of 2v1 and ganking and stuff going on with that. Whereas the dueling mode, obviously that doesn't really happen.
Yeah, so there's duels, which is 1v1. There's brawls, which is 2v2. And then there's what do they call it?
Dominion and elimination.
Elimination, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Elimination is 4v4. You can decide whether you want to play with all players or if you want to be on a team of players against AI in all of those situations. And I think for me, the thing that I really enjoy about For Honor is that I like figuring out how to be better. And most people who watch my streams or have watched the podcast before know that I like games that are difficult, and then I figure out how to, like, I figure them out, right? Like that's really satisfying for me as a player. So I think for this game, because there's so many intricacies to it, and each class is different, and you have to learn them individually and how to be most effective with them.
Mm-hmm.
The duels are the best part for me because it's literally just me and one other person. I know some other motherfucker isn't going to come up behind me and like attack me, right? It's just me and one other person figuring out who's the better fighter, and you get to see where you're improving and where you're lacking much easier that way. And I think that you become much more satisfied with yourself and figuring out how to improve over time. I feel like I can just sit there and do duels for hours, which I've done before during this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my feelings on it. JP, what's like the thing that is like fucking you up?
So we did what, like 6 or 7 hours the first day, and then I did 3 2-hour sponsored streams over the weekend. I think my main issues with the game is that the idea of failing is not fun in the game. It is not a rewarding process. The feedback that you get when you fail is just you died, and then you get fucking mocked by some taunt because the taunt is why and easily accessible to everyone, and then they figure out how to like goof the taunt so that you can taunt
so that they're just
even
like,
more. Yeah.
I hate that shit so much.
But yeah, the idea of failing that game is, and I think this idea of like making failing fun is something that like an Overwatch dev or some shit said. I wish I could give credit to where I heard it first, but you just die. And I think that one of the reasons that I didn't like it right at the very start is that I was playing 4v4. And like you were saying, not only is that mode the type of mode where you can be in a 1v1 and someone can just come up behind you and fucking hit you over the head, then you lose half your HP. There's also like so much going on, especially in Dominion, with 1, realizing that you're fighting someone 1v1, 2, trying to get around that, 3, dealing with the 3 points and the score in the top right. And then the HUD is just kind of like, I think the HUD is maybe one of the worst parts of the game in a mode like Dominion because there's so much on the screen.
A lot, yeah.
There's so much information to process. And for someone that just jumped into it, like I did in the first stream, I was just completely overwhelmed and I had no idea what to focus on. And part of that comes in the ability that, or in the fact that when you first start up the game, you do I think it's just a normal tutorial, which is, this is how you fight, this is how you lock onto someone, this is how you do a normal attack, this is how you do a strong attack, and that's the end.
Right.
There's a second tutorial that Twitch chat has reminded me of a billion times that you need to go and do. It's like the advanced tutorial, which teaches you actually how to play the game, like how to counter guard break, how to parry, like all the real important stuff.
Right.
And it's optional. Like that, in my opinion, should be the next thing that happens right away. And I think they kind of changed up the tutorial a tiny bit in the beta compared to the release. It just felt a little bit longer to me. So they definitely tweaked it some, but it just does a bad job of getting new players acclimated to what is going on in the game and what you should be doing, I think. And I think especially too, if they somehow locked 4v4 after like 2 duels or something like that, I would have had a lot better experience with it. But I understand obviously like the main bulk of that game is going to be 4v4 because you get nervous as shit when you do a 1v1 type scenario in any game.
But that's a lot of fun as well, though, as far as I'm concerned. And it's interesting that
it is, yeah.
One of the first things that Dodger said, which is what a lot of people are saying as well, this is a fighting game. It's a fighting game in the guise of a multiplayer brawling chivalry War of the Roses Dynasty Warriors-esque kind of affair. And Dominion kind of masks the true nature of the game, I think. And what you said in regards to the tutorial is exactly the same problem I had with one of the early betas, whereby there's a lot of depth to each class. They all have their own unique combos, they all have unique abilities and different playstyles. The tutorials do a terrible job of explaining and actually drilling that into you. And that's a very similar problem to a lot of fighting games. They very much suffer that. And even the advanced training isn't necessarily enough to truly get you to understand those concepts. And you often just have to either watch a lot of people do it. I mean, I remember trying to learn a character in Street Fighter. It would often be like watching combo move videos and stuff like that, and just trying to memorize the different situations and the different key combinations to get there. And there is quite an element of that in For Honor.
Yeah. I think one of the other things that is most annoying, at least, and this is totally a streamer first world problem compared to just the average person playing it. It just happened in your chat, is the direct line after everything I just said is, so you're not good at the game and so it's a bad game.
Oh, that good old.
And so like good. That thing, that is more infuriating than anything else that I just said when streaming the game. So it made the sponsored streams, like I just had to turn off chat. I just couldn't read or communicate with anyone for the 2 hours.
Yeah, it's like what we were talking about before the show started, that like it just shuts down any kind of conversation you can have.
It's a really does.
Like,
cliche.
anything that could potentially be wrong with the game, right? It's like, well, there's nothing wrong with the game. You're just bad at it.
You have no idea how many times I've fucking heard that over the last 6 years of critiquing video games. Like, it's the standard go-to lazy, dumbass defense of people that can't actually argue with you. It's like, oh, good. You know, you're just bad at it. That's why. They can't even explain it. You can't even argue with them on that. It's not even worth it. At that point, you're just like, oh, you're not worth talking to then.
I think it's also a worse situation for me because my follow-up is I played it's way too much Overwatch. I've talked about it at length, but I feel like on the flip side, if you look at something like Overwatch, it does a really good job of creating cool moments. Even if you fail or even if you suck at that game, you could still do cool things regardless of what your skill level is. And I think that's where something like For Honor, although it's a completely different game, needs, I don't know what it is. Maybe the idea of just killing someone is cool, but there's no like positive reinforcement in that game for me to want to be better. Like there's no ranked mode, there's no play of the game, you just kill someone and you move on to the next person.
Right.
And maybe that's just for me. That's probably just my own thing. It's not everyone's problem.
Right. I think a lot of the things that I hear are critiques that have always been around, again, in fighting games. Like somebody saying, oh, well, you can still do okay at that game just smashing the same button. It's like, well, yeah, that's also true in a fighting game. But the more you play it, the more you realize, like, oh, they're just smashing the same button. And I know exactly how to counter that and annihilate them, right? Like that only works for so long.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. For me, like I was saying, for me, it's the thing that makes me want to be better is going up against a person who's playing my same class and seeing them be way better than me. And then that makes me go, fuck, I want to be as good as that person, right? Like, how come they were doing combos and shits for what felt like forever and I hit 3 times and then I have nothing to follow up with, right? Like, they've figured something out that I haven't.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
But I don't know. I think it has to do with the way that people are thinking about the game and like what they want out of the game.
Totally, yeah, and I will confess I haven't done more than 10 minutes of 1v1s and 2v2s. It's only been 4v4 stuff, and that is also just as frustrating when it becomes like a 1v3 where you're just getting like fucking gangbanged and you can't, like, the skill level kind of goes out the window and you're at that point just waiting for a revenge to try to like snag a kill with extra damage on someone while they're down because you knocked them back. But most of the time people just guard break you and you get destroyed immediately. And it's not fun for anyone. Like, I've seen, quote, the best people on Twitch at the game just get fucking infuriated every time that happens to them.
Yeah, but
so
I've also seen the best people on Twitch literally win those encounters, like 3v1s or 4 versus 1s. Like, it is possible. It can be done.
Yeah, it definitely is possible. But I for the average player, it's not, and it becomes like a mash fest, and you just get frustrated real quick.
Yeah, but I mean, that's always going to happen in what the people perceive as unfair situations. It's when you first start with a game like Dota or League of Legends, it's exactly the same thing. You know, new players often get really fucking angry, and there's like, don't do that. That's unfair. Like the whole Ibushido, I think, is the term that kept being used. It's like, no, you have to play honorably. It's like, that's a dick move. You're not allowed to play like that. It's like, well, yeah, they totally are allowed to play like that, and you need to get used to that, or you're just going to keep losing. But it doesn't make it any less infuriating, certainly. And with a newer game, you're going to find, especially pubbies, that are hardly going to work together as a team properly. And you're going to run into those situations. You're going to be like, well, where's my fucking team? And then just get really angry and frustrated.
Yep. Yeah. The few times that I did have an enjoyable time with the game was in elimination mode, which a lot of people don't like because it has buffs that are wildly overpowered, in the sense that there's a damage buff, there's a speed buff, there's a shield buff, which basically gives you an entire new HP bar.
And they're placed in a way that makes no sense.
Well, they're
placed in a way where, when you spawn, one person is always going to have a shield buff right behind them. And it's like,
so
what the fuck?
So that's what, like, the reason that I had fun in there is because it gave me an element to, like, I'm just going to run away from this fight, grab this power up, grab that power up, grab the attack power up, go join someone who's in a 1v1, hit them behind the head with like a strong attack and just kill them from half HP. And then run around doing that. So that was where I got enjoyment out of it. It was just kind of like breaking the game in a sense with those power-ups. I hope they refine that system a little bit, though, because not only are they completely overpowered when you do get them, but like Dodger said, they are right next to the start of a duel. Some even having a player spawn 2 feet from it, where the other player is spawning a good like 5 or 10 steps from it.
That's extremely stupid.
And you can pick them up in like seconds. So much so, if 2 people are fighting in one, a viable strategy is to literally push the other player out, and then you just get the buff almost immediately because you're already standing in it.
Okay, that's really bad.
It's definitely a weird mode. But.
They're apparently adding a mode that's exactly like elimination, but with no buffs, and I think I would enjoy that more. But
yeah. But the other thing is, I also played in terms of the class was the Warden, I think is the name of it. It's the Viking with the shield and the sword, and it's only because they have their guard break. If you press X right after a guard break, you're able to push in, for the most part. Sometimes it doesn't work, or sometimes I was mashing too hard and it didn't go the direction that I wanted to. But you can just push people off shit really easily with that. And that's what I actually got after like 2 or 3 hours of trying to learn that process. Got relatively good at, and that's where I found success. Not necessarily in like the actual second to second fighting. It was just baiting someone over to a bridge and pressing that button and doing the actual combo and pushing them off. But I don't know if I don't know if I'll play it. I have a release code for it, but I don't know if I'll ever play it again on stream. It is one of the most infuriating games to play for me. So we'll see.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to trying the release version. I don't suppose anyone's actually played any of the campaign yet, have they?
I've seen it played.
I saw some of Sam play it.
Did he have any specific opinion on it?
From what I watched, you have an option. I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's called like realism mode or something that takes away your HUD. So you don't see like the which direction they're coming from and which direction to block. You have to just like try to see it. So
Okay,
it like
seems-
ups the difficulty, which
seems
is
pretty
kind of cool.
Yeah.
And there's from at least from what I saw, there's full voice acting, including your character,
All right.
which is pretty cool.
All right.
So
I saw a couple tweets about it saying that it was kind of short. I don't know. I
That
don't
doesn't surprise
know
me in
the
the
link.
slightest.
Yeah, and I would think
Clearly does not seem
game-
like the priority of the game at all.
Yeah, exactly. In a game like this, the multiplayer is priority of the game. So if it's 4 to 5 hours, that's plenty. I think.
I'm going
for
to
what they're
assume
trying
the
to
only
do.
reason they included it was because of the criticism of Rainbow Six Siege on launch. It's like, why I didn't have a campaign, so I'm not buying it, which of course is thoroughly bizarre considering it
Right.
did actually have single-player terrorist hunts and a full set of the challenge missions, which
Mhm.
were sort of part tutorial, part a bunch of different scenarios and things. So I don't really think that that's a legitimate criticism per se, but I guess they probably just threw the campaign in there to say, right now you can't say that about it anymore. I've
Yeah.
said it time and time and time again. I would much prefer it if they just didn't bother wasting their time developing that kind of thing. Either make a proper campaign or don't make one at all and just throw the rest of the resources at the multiplayer or something.
Yeah, I mean, if they do it, if it's anything like the Titanfall 2 single player, then they could do that anytime they want, in my opinion, because I really enjoyed the Titanfall 2 single player. But yeah, I agree with you. In most cases, it is tacked on. It is not something that is worthwhile. But again, I haven't played the For Honor single player, so I can't speak to it at all.
Yeah, I'll have a look at it over the next couple of days, I think. Interesting. Yeah, I just haven't got around to playing the multiplayer yet. There's been a bit of a quibble over the last couple of days as people have noticed there's apparently a way to buy a full set of unlocks for your characters, which really that only affects the Dominion mode, I am to understand.
Like the armor you can buy or something.
Yes, yeah. Apparently it's
sorry, say that again. Oh, that it like has benefits, like different armor has benefits.
yeah, that's only in Dominion mode though. That's my understanding. You can
Yeah.
you can spend $30 to unlock everything. And they put that in the game sort of right from the start. That's something that EA has been doing over the past couple of years with things like Battlefield, but generally speaking, they don't usually immediately put that in. They usually wait at least a couple of months. I know I picked it up for Battlefield 1, I think about a month or two after launch, because I couldn't be bothered with the unlocks, especially the rank 10 stuff, which takes for fucking ever and is an absolute joke to get. But gear only affects that mode, though.
Yeah. I mean, I get enough because there's like 4 different pack types, I think, that you can buy with the in-game currency.
Mm-hmm.
And it did not take me long to get enough currency for a premium pack. Like I was able to buy premium packs fairly regularly.
Yeah, I think you get like 1,500 points if you just do a tutorial at the start of the game, so you can buy one right out of the gate.
Yeah, you can buy characters with that same currency. Because they start you off with like the normal basic boys. But yeah, I don't think that they've created a situation where you would feel like you had to pay money because you get in-game currency so fast, I think. They've also said, and I don't know if this is true, but I've heard from people who have played long enough to prestige, which is where you play a class until you hit 20 and then you can prestige and start over at 1. I've heard that once you prestige, those premium packs will get you different gear.
Okay.
Like you'll have a different tier of gear if you've prestiged before.
Yeah.
So,
Like higher level gear?
I don't know. I don't know if it means like different looking stuff or just better stuff. I'm not sure.
My understanding is that it also matchmakes by effectively gear score as well. So
that's good.
If you
In
end
the
up
beta, it wasn't doing that at all.
yeah, apparently this is what I'm told anyway, that it's now matchmaking that way. So obviously over the first couple of days it'll probably be a bit ropey because it won't be properly stratified. But now I think that's supposed to be working fairly well, and you're not going to be matched up against a guy with higher level gear. You're going to be matched up with guys the same level gear as you. And hell, if they're the ones that have earned it, and you're the one that just bought it, you're probably going to get your ass handed to you.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
A little bit not pay to win, more the whole good old pay to lose thing again. And again, just it's pay to save time as well, which I'm not against if properly done.
Yeah.
There's certainly a very big risk that you botch that and you turn it into a more pay-to-win sort of scenario, but as long as they avoid that, then I'm okay with the whole skip the unlocks shit. To me, anyway, that just demonstrates how stupid those unlock systems are in the first place.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because when I played, I was routinely being put up against people with really high gear in Dominion and Elimination, but it might have been because I was playing with friends who had higher gear.
That will be why.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Base it on. In duels, I didn't notice that as much.
In duels, it doesn't apply. The gear doesn't actually do any statistical difference. You can wear it for a cosmetic.
Still, though.
Yes, yeah. It's for, basically that if you do it in duels, you're doing it just to be fancy. It's a fashion thing at that point. So you just put on the stuff that makes you look the coolest. Because
do you guys know if they plan on adding a ranked mode or anything like that in the future?
I don't know.
I can't imagine that they wouldn't, considering with they've got duel in there and such.
I mean, for how quote hardcore that game is in terms of the difficulty of being good at it, it seems like a no-brainer to add ranked into that, just so those people can have a place to go and play, and everyone else can play in the normal modes.
Yeah, I would imagine they will.
Yeah, when I was playing, I only had one game where chat was just a nightmare, where like the in-game chat was just filled with people just throwing slurs at each other and so upset. But what was awesome is that if you're using a controller, you can just hold down left bumper and then press any of these buttons, and it either says "Wow," "Thanks," "Good fight," or "Sorry." And so the second somebody would say something shitty, I'd just say "Good fight, good fight, good fight, good fight."
Spam it off.
Spam it off.
Yeah.
What is this person?
So that was the other. This doesn't really have to do with the actual gameplay, but to my knowledge, I don't think you can mute people in game, like when you're actually physically playing the game. So the people that do spam that stuff, I didn't know or find a way that you can mute. But when you go to the post game lobby, you can mute people there.
It's a bit fucking late for that, isn't it?
But you can't chat in that. So what the fuck is the point? That's why I was just like, all right. I don't understand that process at all. And the other thing too is one of the edgelord things to do in the game is you can create your own emblem. You can actually create a swastika.
Of course you can.
Multiple people that I would play against just had like swastikas all on their shields and shit and their armor as I was playing. So
I mean, of course that's the first thing that people do when they've got the access to that sort of shit. So that doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But that has nothing to do with the actual gameplay of it. So I'm sure that stuff will be fixed or patched eventually.
Yeah, fair enough.
See.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let us take a break. When we come back, a little bit more about the stuff we have been playing this week. Got a lot more to cover. I'm going to talk a lot about nvisigun Heroes. That's going to happen. I'm going to talk a bit about that because that was fucking awesome. We had a great stream of that last night. We'll be talking about that after the break. In the meantime, a word from our sponsor, squarespace.com/cooptional. Head on over there for your free trial and 10% off your first order. Create a website using Squarespace because you're terrible and they're not. That's not their official slogan. I just put that in there myself. We'll be back after the break. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Co-OOptional Podcast. We will be right back. It's Valentine's Day. Or if it's not, it certainly will be at some point within the next 365 days, in which case you are probably thinking to yourself, what can I do to impress the love and or potential love of my life? I need to get them something that will last, something that demonstrates my artistic side, something that shows just how creative I can be, something that is as unique and as beautiful as they are. But I don't want to spend a lot of money, and I'm not sure I actually have all of those talents anyway. Then how about you build them a website on squarespace.com/cooptional. With Squarespace, you can create something truly unique using one of Squarespace's award-winning templates. Yes, this makes sense. Your website will be accessible on practically any device, so you can be with your love always, no matter how they try to escape your overbearing, suffocating presence. Oh, and don't worry about how long it will last. After all, true love lasts forever, and with Squarespace's all-in-one platform, you'll never have to worry about patching or upgrading your site to keep its systems up to date. Squarespace is used by a wide range of creative industries, and don't worry if you have no creativity to speak of. Head over to squarespace.com/cooptional and start your free trial today. You'll see just how creative you can look thanks to the beautiful, easy-to-use designs available on Squarespace. And we'll even give you 10% off your first order on top of all of that at squarespace.com/cooptional. You can even grab your unique domain name at the same time in a snap, with incredibly quick and simple setup and no hidden fees. Francis plays the guitar, he said. Francis has impeccable taste, he said. Well, I bet Francis can't create such an enduring online vision of magnificence as I can with Squarespace. Well, he can. Anyone can, really. That's kind of the point. So, best to keep Francis away from this podcast so he doesn't find out. Do you hear me, Francis? Stay away from him! What? Squarespace. Create a website for whatever or whoever you'd like. Head on over to squarespace.com/cooptional and start your free trial today and get 10% off your first order. Be assertive, be bold, be a better man than Francis will ever be, and if that somehow fails, host a blog featuring your miserable pining on Squarespace. Squarespace. They don't know I'm crying and dead inside because I'm hiding behind this beautiful website. Why did you choose him? We could have been perfect together! Squarespace. Make your next move before Francis does, that gussied up harlot. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Co-Optional Podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed the break. Wonderful sounds of Nervous Test Pilot there, as well as Mick Gordon's Doom soundtrack. Very nice, very nice. All good stuff. You know what else is good stuff?
What?
There's a game called nvisigun Heroes is good stuff.
It's a great game, right?
Yeah, not that you would know, because you ain't played it.
I have. I just didn't play with you.
Oh, I see how it is. All right.
I played it when it was in beta.
Damn! Shots fired back.
I played it on Friend Zone like forever ago, so it might have changed.
I would imagine that it had, you know. Thankfully, I played with the cooler kids last night, as it turns out.
I was there. I wouldn't.
I'll never be a cool.
Yeah, Dodger was in a locker still, apparently.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There.
I was looking to play with a higher class of player.
No, I was there.
Someone
No high class. Don't
a
worry.
little bit more. I don't like to
You're
play
high
with
class.
the casuals.
Lying right now. No, we were super casual. All lies.
I mean, we were pretty terrible. Oh
What
God.
did you think? You loved it.
Yeah, I bloody well did. So, nvisigun Heroes is something we mentioned on the podcast a couple of weeks ago because it popped up in the release list, and we thought it looked kind of neat. But we weren't 100% sure exactly what was going on with it. Well, as it turns out, it is a very, very cool competitive game with online support, thank God, because so many of these really awesome indie multiplayer games end up just being couch-only, which is limiting, let's just put it that way. And the conceit for this is that you have the nvisigun, which makes you invisible. Sounds really fucking powerful, right? The problem is you also can't see yourself either. Every time you shoot with the nvisigun, you are briefly revealed. And of course, in order to win the game modes, you generally have to eliminate the opposition. But of course, if you can't see them, you don't know where they are, then it's going to be a little bit tricky to do that. However, as you move around, bearing in mind you can't see yourself either, you're probably going to bump into things, or move through foliage, or move through a lake or something like that. And when you do things like that, you're going to actually leave a clue, a footprint, for instance, in the snow, or it's going to make the foliage rustle around you, or there'll be a little glow of your color as you bump into a rock or whatever. So knowing where you are is almost as challenging as knowing where the opponent is. And the whole idea, of course, is to try and kill said opponents, and each of the 8 different heroes has a different special ability that will allow them to try and hunt the other guys down or traverse the level a little bit faster. And every now and again, a power-up will appear on the level, which, of course, is a prime ambush spot. Power-ups are very good, but, oh god, it's a big risk going for it. The game's sort of grid-based in the sense that you move a square at a time. So it's a lot easier to track where exactly you are while invisible, and of course also try and figure out where your opponent's going to move to and predict where they're going to move to so you can take a shot. It's actually incredible.
It's really fun.
Oh god, it is so very, very good. It's really tense. There's a lot of thought that goes into it, actually. Not to mention a very, very high skill ceiling, since you can do things like block shots. There's a lot of mental and mind games going on as well to try and trick your opponent into believing that they're in a place that you aren't.
If you bump into something, you can be like, cool, now that's where they think I am. And then you can like try to keep track of where you are after that so that they like know where they're shooting. Like the big thing is to figure out where you are immediately. Because at the start of the game, you're like, fuck, everybody's invisible now. Like you have to figure out where you are ASAP.
I was gonna say, like, you're saying you're gonna bump into things to trick people. My strategy was to bump into things to figure out where the hell I was on the map. So, like, if I see my color bump into shit, that's where I am. I was terrible at discovering where I was, and then I got the character that creates a duplicate of yourself.
Oh,
then
that guy's crazy.
A like idiot savant. I became like this master of killing people, but not knowing who was the one doing it.
Well, that's
so bad.
The other thing that I really love is that the game punishes you for just panicking and shooting something.
Yes, it totally does. Because every time you shoot,
everybody knows exactly where you are, and you're like, "Fuck! I need to like run somewhere else."
There's definite moments where you, especially when there's only two people left, like in the survival mode, when the first two people have died, that you're both trying to figure each other out, and you may be being stealthy, and then you end up being right on top of each other, and then it's just panicked screaming as both of you try and desperately kill the other person first, and that gets absolutely crazy. And what I was really impressed by is there's a huge number of maps. There's 50 in the game that all have different hazards and terrain types. And there are like 8 different game modes as well.
Shout out to Monster Mode where I actually won.
Beast Tamer? Yeah.
Beast Tamer, yay!
Yeah, we played a mode called Beast Tamer where these weird-looking one-eyed beasts pop up. And what you have to do is you've got to move within range of the beast to start taming it. And if you are able to tame the beast, it'll disappear and leave you a coin. And you pick up the coin, and the first of the 10 coins wins. So kills are great to stop your opponent from picking up coins, but they don't win you the match. The problem, of course, with taming the beast is the beast starts to sort of move around and starts to sink into the ground as that happens. So you can notice that somebody's doing it, but you can stand anywhere on the 8, would it be 8 or 9 tiles? Probably, whatever. You can stand on any of the tiles around it. So you gotta figure out, oh, well, shit, I know he's in the range of the beast, but which tile is he in? And you can trick people into believing that you're in.
Through them either. So
no, you can't.
Even if you think he's on the other side, you can't shoot it will just hit the beast, and the guy will just sit there and be like,
I don't care. Yeah, now I know where you are. So yeah, you can't just take random pot shots in the direction of the beast. You got to figure out where exactly it is they're standing and then go for it. There's plenty of situations where you get a great coin steal as well. Like you can wait in range of the beast for the beast to disappear, and then maybe if you're the guy that has a ground stomp, stun everyone in the area and then steal the coin and run off. Yeah, I do shit like that. You can be the teleporter character and teleport in where the coin is and grab it before everyone else does. It's a riot. It's a really fun game.
It's really unique idea. Like the fact that you play an invisible hero, and the only way that you know where you see is where you are is by shooting or running into something. Like,
well,
yes,
that's super unique.
That's nuts.
Yeah, one of the characters is entirely the idea is their special ability is they create another version of themselves that can't kill anyone, but also if it dies, you don't die. But you now have 2 characters, so it's like you have twice as much ability to not figure out what you're doing.
Oh yeah, that was a pretty advanced one.
It clicked with me. Somehow that's the thing. Everything else I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. That's the one.
It was a really interesting interaction between my character, who had a drone that he could send out, which would go backwards and forwards, and if it tacked onto somebody and they spent too long in its area, it would lock onto them and reveal them. But the problem is, it doesn't know the difference between a phantom and the regular guy. So it kept locking onto him. You can also detonate the drone to stun the person that's nearby. So you can do crazy shit like that. But it travels in a straight line backwards and forwards, and you've got to blow the drone up in order to set up a new one and stuff like that. So
Right.
it's really cool that they I mean, the game would be great without the abilities. It's made so much better by the fact that there's those abilities to interact with. The power-ups are extremely fun to use, and they create these natural flashpoints on the map, and there's a ton of risk-reward involved with them.
Some of the maps are interactive in different ways
Yeah.
beyond like stepping on things. Or one of the maps, there were Yetis that would like spew ice.
Yeah, and if you stood in there for too long, you get frozen into a block of ice. So
Yeah,
you
one
had
of
to be
the maps,
careful
the
running through
level
there.
would change, like it would shift as you were in it.
Yes.
There's a lot of cool things in this game. It's really interesting.
Yeah, some really great stuff. And like I said, 50 maps with 8 different game modes and 8 different heroes as well. That's a lot of game.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of game. It does have a bunch of single-player challenges. It's primarily a multiplayer game, and it does support online play, thank God. We had a couple of us...
Can you have like a protected game? Like, can you have a password protected game?
It doesn't do passwords. It does a room code. So you gotta be a bit careful if you're playing on stream to hide
it's
that.
not through Steam either. It's something else.
Yeah, I don't think it doesn't. You can't use Steam's invite system, so they must use some other form of matchmaking. But you can do private games. You totally can. You could do a direct IP connect, but we just did the whole join by room code thing, and the room code thing worked really well. You've just, as the host streamer, you've just got to be careful to either run a delay or put an overlay over it while you're bringing people in.
If I wanted to play, like say that I wasn't concerned about that and I actually wanted to play with like subscribers or something, I could just send all of them the room code.
Yes, absolutely. Very similar to Jackbox in that respect, except obviously Jackbox supports hundreds of people and as spectators. This doesn't. But yeah, the room code system works pretty well, I think, honestly.
Is it 4 players max?
Four players seems to be max, yes. 4 players is bonkers, by the way. We played a few matches 3-player first because Jesse was having connection problems, and that was pretty wild. Once we added the 4th player in, it became ridiculous. Like, if you had more than that, it would be absurd. It would be really hard to keep track, I think.
You'd be bumping into people. Like, you wouldn't quite know what was going on.
Well, it's also really hard to pay attention as well, because really, to play well, you've got to be really super alert of what's going on the map to look for things like the footsteps in the snow and the rustling of the foliage and so on and so forth. Right. So having a lot of players in the map would make that quite tricky, I think. So four's a very good number, and even in just like 1 versus 1 dueling is extremely enjoyable. That becomes very strategic and really super tense. So we had some awesome moments. Anyone that is a subscriber to the Twitch channel, of course, can watch the VOD right now. I believe, Jesse, you captured it for YouTube as well, I think?
I have.
Or you tried to. Yeah,
I haven't. It was the first thing I ever recorded on this new audio setup, so I haven't actually, like...
It's probably a disaster or something, yeah.
It's probably terrible, yeah.
Yeah, but I know Sin Victor streamed it as well, and I think Slowbeef might have too. So, yeah, there's ways to watch it one way or the other. And if you're not a subscriber, of course, the unofficial stream channel always uploads my VODs. But... it's a fucking blast. It's great. It's already been overlooked as it was. When I tried to stream it a couple of days ago, there was nobody playing. So, and this game only came out a few days ago. So I was like, oh god, that sucks. Which is why I got a group of people together to play it. But it's, I guess, one of the real risks with indie multiplayer games, particularly these competitive ones. You can release a server-based indie survival game and get 500,000 people playing it in a day. But when it comes to something like this, it's tricky. Even Duck Game on launch had this problem. Yeah. It took quite a lot of really big reviews and YouTubers and streamers playing a lot of Duck Game, I think, to really get people going. Yeah. With this, like I said, barely anybody was playing it. And I really hope that some people are willing to take the plunge, because it is a nasty little catch-22. I'm not going to buy the game because there are no players, and yet, of course, there are no players because you didn't buy it. Right now, there's only two people online right now for it. And
what?
Yeah, and that's that is a legitimate reason to feel like, oh god, this sucks. You know, that I don't want to buy something, obviously, that I can't be guaranteed to play. But therein lies the problem, isn't it? We need people to play this thing. Thankfully, we can just play amongst ourselves, but it's such a good game. It's going to get overshadowed by For Honor. I can see that happening a mile away.
Yeah,
But it's so original. It's so good.
it's really original. I didn't even
Amazing.
know it was a Kickstarter. It only got 36 of the goal was 32, but it got 36,000 on
It got like
Kickstarter.
1,000 backers. I want to know where the fuck those backers are.
Yeah, 1,300 backers.
Yeah, why aren't they playing it?
Did we discover that it was, and I don't know if this is true, but I think last night we had mentioned that it was released to those backers before it was released on
Months
Steam?
before, yeah. I think that it's on itch.io as well. It's actually very odd to see something of this caliber
Doc
end
was
up in
talking about it like Friend Zone. That was a long time ago. So
yeah, I mean, they had a
Yeah.
very early alpha
Played
of
like
it, I think.
an older version of it during Friend Zone a long time ago.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I'm going to assume that since they don't use Steamworks, that the player base is the same. I don't imagine there's some massive secret cabal of players on the itch.io version.
Right.
But I'll tell you this, I know for a fact that it popped up on Steam, and because it didn't get a good start, it never appeared on the front page under popular new releases.
That sucks.
So it's been completely fucking buried. It's tricky. It's a tricky sell. I think with games like that, having a good single player mode is a great way to make sure that people are willing to buy in anyway, even if there's not that many people playing multiplayer. The thing is, it does have quite a lot of that. It has a good amount of single player content in the form of challenges, and the bots are very competent. But obviously playing against humans is a lot more fun.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, though, that like every now and again it's worth taking a risk for something that's genuinely amazing. And to me, this is really, really, really good. It's incredible.
It's only $15 too. It's not too much.
Yeah, it's not too much. I think that in this case, with games like that, they may actually have to start releasing limited trial versions, maybe that limit you to like a hero rotation or just a couple of game modes, just so that you can pad out the player base.
If Steam was going to do anything in this post Greenlight world, it should be some sort of thing that's like akin to curation, where it's like, these are actually good games that you should check out that are indie games, right? Like focus on that kind of stuff and really promote that aspect of their service. But that's just me. I've always felt that way.
Yeah. I agree.
No, that would be a lot of work.
That would involve Valve actually actively doing something.
It's
I would have to actually play the games that they're selling people, and I don't.
They'd have to check if they actually had executables in them. That seems like an awful lot of work.
Yeah.
What I'm hoping for is that, I mean, I got Northern Lion onto it a couple of days ago because that's a Northern Lion game through and through. So they played it, we played it. We're probably going to play it again on stream more than once, I'd imagine. And I'm hoping that
we'll probably wind up playing it.
Yeah, I would think so. At that point, it becomes hopefully like there's enough exposure for it to actually justify.
I'm sure Lyric and them will touch it too in the next couple of days. So
I think so. I'm interested to. I would love to see what the Lyric effect actually is on games that aren't those indie survival games. You know,
God damn it.
I have to wonder how many copies he can shift.
Yeah, they play a pretty good amount of different stuff for the night stream, so I'm sure it has some push to it, but. I don't know.
Maybe he's too busy cashing those Amazon Prime and Ubisoft checks for For Honor, like everyone else on Twitch right now.
Maybe so.
Pretty hard to convince people to play another game when Ubisoft is willing to shower them in bags of gold to play fucking For Honor.
Yeah, and money at the same time.
Money as well, yeah. Just
so
you don't want gold? We'll give you money as well. I'll give Ubisoft credit. They've realized, you saturate the front page of Twitch for like a fucking week or more with a game, then people will buy into it.
Yeah, I'm very. We'll never be able to see this, but I would love to be able to see their marketing budget and how it's being used for influencers compared to everyone else, because it's got to be. I mean,
Ubisoft been going that way for a while.
Yeah, there's numbers that just came out. I think that like 6 million people downloaded and played the beta over the past weekend for Honor, which is kind of crazy to think about. Much more than Ubisoft has ever had for any of the other games that I think have done something similar. So
yeah, well, I think they've been doing a lot of influencer-based marketing. I think since Far Cry 4. If you recall the amount of YouTubers they started flying out and giving
I was
a
there
lot of preview builds.
For the San Fran event for the preview build, and it was like kind of funny. A bunch of different streamers, a bunch of YouTubers were there.
They've realized what sells copies, especially with those open world antics kind of games. They're very, very good for either that or just dedicated multiplayer games. They're all very good for influencer coverage.
Yep, their budget for influencers and YouTubers and Twitch streamers is huge.
It is
because they see the value in it versus other companies.
It works.
That don't. And if you look back at the podcast from years ago, you can remember the conversations we had in the past where executives were like, "What is this YouTube thing? What is the internet?" Right? And Ubisoft is one of the few companies that was like, "F it, let's jump on this bandwagon."
One of the bigger ones, yeah. A lot of the indies got on their way earlier, but they're one of the first big ones.
It's weird to look at how Ubisoft is handling that, and then you look at people, you look at Microsoft, you look at Sony, and they just don't give a fuck yet. And Nintendo especially just does not give zero fucks. So I just wonder when the big three will kind of catch on and start doing that to just push more sales.
I think
Nintendo heard about influencers and said, no, they have to pay us, not the other way around.
Yeah, that's how they looked at it. Yeah, sure.
I think like Microsoft sees that, but I don't know that Sony or Nintendo. I don't know the Japanese-based companies would ever end up giving a shit.
Yeah, Sony has some third-party groups that are doing some activations for them. They did one with The Last Guardian, and I think there's some other ones coming up soon for some of their other titles, but nothing to the size of what Ubisoft has done.
Yeah. With the big companies, for the most part, they just send slightly fancier consoles to a guy on YouTube, and then they'll just unbox and it's like, hey, look at this, they sent me this. And all I can say is I really hope that those people are getting paid a good amount, because if they're giving that level of exposure for nothing but a $300 console, they're fucking idiots.
Yeah, that's another thing entirely, another conversation entirely that I think will eventually start to occur among influencers, is that type of stuff should be paid. You shouldn't just do that for a single one console.
Right.
It's also just like, hey, I'm getting free stuff, so we're happy to do it, but
but you're an idiot. If you have any sort of presence whatsoever, and you do that level of publicity for just a free piece of product, that's dumb.
Right. It was red, but it was red. That was a red. And then when you turned it on, it made Gears of War sounds.
I had the exact same thing, Jesse.
How many consoles did you sell for them?
Great.
God damn it.
The unfortunate thing is that even if certain content creators go up and ask for money, there's always going to be a content creator that doesn't, and that's who they're going to go to. That's just kind of how it will probably always be in this space, is that someone is always going to be willing to do it for free. And I don't know how to fix that. But it's also
I don't care, because they're dumbasses. They're the ones losing out at that point, as far as I'm concerned.
But I think eventually, if you say that you won't do enough things unless you're getting paid a certain amount, that you're just going to get looked over for a lot of stuff. Like there has to be. It
depends how influential you are. If you're influential enough, then people will jump through your hoops and not the other way around.
That's very true.
You get to be selective with the people that you work with.
It's very true.
So there you go. But yes, Nvisigun Heroes, like, I strongly recommend it. Go watch the stream VOD from last night, see how much fun we were having, and realize that you could have that too in your life. It's fucking great.
I'm not. The way you said it, though, I'm not.
We could all be having fun.
You could all be having this level of fun. Can you tell how much fun I'm having? Oh, yes, I'm sure you could. You can feel it.
No.
Anyway, a lot of fun. Let's move on. Jesse, oh no, yes. What?
I was gonna say I played the Wild 8.
Yes. I heard that's a thing at the moment. A little bit of survival of some sort, but not the normal kind.
Yeah, it's sort of Don't Starve-y. There are 8 different classes that you can play, and it's up to an 8-player game. And it's currently in early access, so the issues that I have with it will hopefully be fixed, because holy shit, that game is frustrating as fuck.
Okay.
It is like, I was not having fun for the majority of the time that I was playing that game, because it it's like a brutally hard game. But when you die, and I realize that this is like kind of a common thing, but like when you die, you lose everything. Like the amount of effort, like any of your crafting skills, you lose that. You spawn where you originally spawned with the whole group. So this is supposed to be a game about like a group of people surviving together, right? So if everybody, and the game also gives you quests. So you're encouraged to like move around the map a bunch. If I fuck up and die, everybody's up here. I spawn way down here again, all by myself with nothing. And I have to like try to by myself make my way back to the group. And it's just, you just die over and over and over and over again. These people, they starve to death in less than a day. I'm just like,
Whoa.
This doesn't make any sense. It makes me so angry. I played it was me, Sam, Gmart, and Octopimp, and Krendor. And holy shit. Like, but by the time we were done playing, I had died quite a few times. I had felt that frustration quite a few times at that point. And I feel like a lot of it would get, like a lot of my frustration would get fixed if they did the thing where you respawned wherever you left your tent.
Okay.
I think that would help a lot. Either you respawn wherever you left your tent, or the skills that you had learned so far, you kept. So
right.
that making your way back to the group, you were still like really good at cutting wood, and you were really good at mining, and like you could still, make campfires and shit easily. But the fact that you start from zero all by yourself is just a shit show. Also, the game encourages crafting, but if somebody crafts something, you can't use it. So all of us had our own tents, which sure made sense. But then we also all had to have our own workbenches. We couldn't share a workbench.
That sucks.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a pretty obvious thing that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, for a group game, you should be able to like specialize a person to do X things, and everyone uses that thing, right?
Yeah, and that's how it's supposed to be, because like every person in the group has like a bonus to something. So there's a person who's supposed to be like the person who's doing first aid, and there's a person who's supposed to be the guy who crafts everything. But the fact that like our crafter, who is Octo, I think, the fact that he would make a workbench and the rest of us couldn't use it to just make something small that we needed. We couldn't like walk up and be like, I need a stick. I literally just need to combine like 2 sticks together. Can I do that? And it's like, make a workbench first, buddy. I thought that was so dumb. So there are a lot of areas in which it's just halting fun, right? Like the group feels like it's making sense and everybody's starting to understand it, and then one person fucks up and dies, and that person is just like in a pit of salt, just so frustrated, trying to like crawl their way back to where they were. So I think that there's quite a bit of adjusting necessary for that game.
I would say so, by the sounds of it. That
It's
sounds
pretty early access, right? Like it just came out on early access.
Yeah, and I do think that it has a lot of potential. I like the idea of them doing kind of a don't starve-y thing, where it's like, depending on who you choose to play, like you have this ability or you have these bonuses and that sort of a thing, so that it really encourages the group to like figure out who's good at what, and all work together. Like I'm into that. But there are things that go against that ideal that don't make sense to me. There are things that split up the group unnecessarily. And make it feel less like it's supposed to be a group game and more like, well, I guess I'm just all out for myself for the next hour while I'm trying to figure out how to get back to everybody so we can complete the next quest,
Okay. Yeah. Well, that looks like something that I will not touch before launch then, by the sounds of it. I just wait for them to fix those problems, because that's
I like
far,
the look of
far
it.
too much.
Graphically, it looks pretty cool.
I like the aesthetic, yeah.
Yeah, everything you just described is instant turn off.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. That doesn't sound good at all, actually.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll get resolved. Right. Jesse, what have you been playing this week?
I I'm trying to remember if
It obviously wasn't that good then. But
no, I mean, did I bring up the gospel that is the Resident Evil DLC on Thursday?
you did, yes.
Did I? So all right. So look, y'all need to play that shit because it's fantastic and it's genius.
Okay.
Did you play in VR, by the way? I'm sure you've talked about this before, but I'm just curious for my own interest.
On my own, yes. Let me tell you some things. One, still makes me very sick. Two,
Okay.
parts that didn't make me sick were about 50 times more scarier than playing normally.
Okay, because yeah, everyone, Co and Zeke and Maximilian all played VR, and they swear it's one of the scariest things they've ever
It is
touched. So
not pleasant. And there's something when you're watching it on a TV, I think it's because there's that like wall, right? Of,
Right.
like TVs.
there's a physical
or
barrier
the
between you and the
computers-
game.
Yeah. When you get in VR, there's a physical reaction your body has that you know it's not real. And still you're like, whoa, nope.
Yeah.
And I since I got my my new Oculus Rift and my PSVR, and I've been trying more things in VR, and I've tried literally everything. Like from third-person perspective games to first-person perspective games, from movies to like everything. And there really is like biologically something that your mind's
It's a fight or the way that I think we kind of decided on the show. It's a fight or flight type thing because you're actually your brain thinks you're in that current situation and you're reacting as if you really were in that situation. So
And-
all of the adrenaline and all of the actual brain chemicals that force you to be scared as shit are real and they're not just in front of you on a TV in that sense.
right. Oh,
Yeah.
and it's and you notice certain things that are, for example, the hands, or if you play a game where you see yourself, you know it's like your brain's like, this is weird, this doesn't seem right. But if you're not focusing on that, you're focusing on just the world and what's happening in it, it is you become immersed real quick.
Yeah.
And real talk, like I'm me, so I can freely I don't ever hide anything. Let's talk about VR porn for a minute.
I think it's weird as hell, to be honest.
Here's the thing. I went on this website that was like, we got the best. I was like, I gotta, like, now that I have this, I gotta look at this and see what's up.
Just gotta try it, right?
I mean, I
Multiple
think
times, perhaps.
here's the problem. Like most weird things that like make you have to like go through many hoops to like look at boobies. I'm like, this is a hassle. Like, this is a lot of work.
Yeah, you got to
Like,
download files
gotta-
and download
I
a
gotta-
It actually
player.
is.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of work. But
It's like, well, you
with
need this
that-
video player, and you need to set these settings
Yes,
and all
yeah,
that
I'm
sort
like,
of thing.
oh, this is a lot of effort. But with
It's
all
too
that
much.
said, there are a few moments where you're watching, you're like, like your brain has this like, yo, this girl does like want to do you. But then I look down, and the body of this person that you're supposed to be look like a fake robot, like a computer generated body. But I was like, no, that has to be a real guy. Like, because your brain's like, well, that's not you, dummy.
It's
And
yeah.
it goes through games. Like that same experience translates into what I'm getting at. It translates into games that when you're focusing on who you're supposed to be in the game, you're immediately taken out of it, and that wall is built back up. But if you don't pay attention to your hands or to your body, or like trying to see yourself in the mirror, if you pay attention to everything else, you're suddenly re-immersed and you're like in it. So a game like Resident Evil, except for the very beginning when you're like hands are in front of your face and stuff, for most of the game, the interactive scenes are really quite scary. And because you're now hearing noises behind you, it's physically behind you, not behind you on a TV screen.
Right.
There's all these different levels that build up, and it's just like, okay, this is uncomfortable. Add that idea of motion sickness as well. You already feel off. You already feel like something's wrong and something's not right. And then multiply that by the fact that there's crazy people trying to kill you. It's like there's
Nope. Nope.
Yeah, same.
That's-
No, thank you.
that's-
tough.
Yeah,
It's tough.
like, that's why I'll never touch it.
I got
We
no
had the
desire.
same conversation, and they said pretty much exactly what you did. They're like, "So are you gonna play it?" They're like, "We'll give you like $500." I'm like, "I won't do that for like 5,000. Need a
I
little bit more
won't do
money."
that for 50,000. No, fuck
$1
that.
million. Okay.
Indeed, yes.
It again, it feels like true terror, and like it would be like I was in a real nightmare. The way that I deal with horror, that's how I would deal with it. So it'd be a nightmare.
Yeah,
for me.
I always get
Meanwhile-
nightmares for that kind of shit. So no, I would not go that far.
Yeah. Meanwhile, a game that I don't think got reviewed very well, but for some reason I love, is a game called Edge of Nowhere.
Ah,
It-
yes.
Yeah,
I've heard
about it.
Insomniac, one of the two that they made for the Oculus Rift. The other one being
It's
the
a horror game where
mage game.
instead of first person, you are you're like over the shoulder
Yeah.
of this guy, but your head is the light on his helmet.
Yeah.
Or the light he's holding. And so when you move around, you can see things because he's shining the light at places.
Mhm.
And I like that concept for horror. I think that's pretty neat because the way they use it is because these monsters detect you by sound, and you can like, I like that. I can handle that because you still have that wall in front of you where it's like, I am safe and everything's okay. And I'm just like watching this guy. And if he dies, oh well. But first person is too much. If you don't think you can handle it, here's how you'll know if you can handle it. Go download the kitchen demo for Resident Evil.
Yep.
You can get through the kitchen demo without losing your shit. Then you'll be fine. But if you literally the kitchen demo is you're sitting, you're not doing anything. Things happen to you and then it's over. And I'm just like, if you can get through that, you can get through anything. You'll be fine.
Yeah, it's simultaneously a situation where it's the best possible use of VR, but it's also completely terrifying and kind of exclusionary in that respect because it is so fucking scary. Whereas you play a third-person game and you're like, okay, this is kind of cool, but why the hell am I playing this in VR? It's not. It helps a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it was Cronus or whatever the hell the name of it was that came out with the Oculus, which is that third-person Zelda-esque game, which was pretty good. And I like the fact that it essentially at that point just acted like a head tracker. Like you control the camera with your head, which was actually quite convenient. I got around a lot of the camera problems that those third-person games often have with a controller. But outside of that, it's like, well, this is not the virtual reality experience I was looking for. It's the same with like some of the strategy games where it's like, oh, I can see it from the top. Yeah, but that's not. Yeah, that doesn't really help, honestly. But when it comes to first-person shit, that's when it gets very scary,
Terrifying.
very real, very immersive.
What happened to all those like VR games that were going to be like you're flying through space and you're on a
Yeah,
cloud
I
and
want to
you-
play those.
Yeah, what happened to fun games? Everything's coming out is like I got an email for one that's like you're stuck underwater 1,000 feet.
I think it's just.
And I'm like, why would I want to do this?
I think it's right now easier to make a scary game in VR than it is to make a good game in VR.
Well, yeah, because a lot of this stuff is like these experiences, right? You know, there's
Yeah.
just
Right.
cheap, easy 10 to 20 minute, fairly linear things. Yeah, totally. It makes sense.
That's
Eventually,
why
sorry,
Everyone talk to
Dodge, go
once.
ahead. Everybody tries. Dodger, go.
I was gonna say that's why Valve, when they were talking about the system and the games that they're making right now for VR, they were like, they're not experiences. They're making like 3
Right.
full games. They're
Yes.
not VR experience.
That's
like,
what I was
having
gonna
to
bring up.
And it's
really
about
that-
bloody time for them.
Yeah.
It really is. Because Vive is, of those 3 VR, well, there's now 4 VR systems, you know, the PSVR, and you talk about the, whatever the hell their mobile one is, the Samsung one.
Samsung.
The Gear.
yeah.
The Gear.
Box.
The Vive, no, not
the
the
Google
cardboard.
Box. That one.
No.
Google Box.
The-
Yeah,
the-
you know, the
the
cardboard
Vive
thingy
has
that
the
you put on
most-
your phone and
The most incomplete, you know, bullshit, basically. And Valve has been really hands-off with it, like they are with fucking everything, and has finally realized, I think, no, we just have to actually throw some real money at it, because, frankly, the best VR games are on the PSVR and the Oculus, and those are both systems with exclusives, and it sucks to say that, because exclusives do suck, you know, it's terrible that not everyone's allowed to play the same stuff, but they are better. They are straight up better. They are real games that are properly funded and have proper support and actually make sense. So the best stuff right now is on systems with exclusives, as far as I can tell. Because honestly, all the Vive stuff you can play on the Oculus anyway, so there's, especially now the touch is out, outside of cost, there's really no disadvantage to owning that thing. But obviously, a lot of people are pretty damn pissed off about the timed exclusives and all that sort of thing, and I don't blame them for that necessarily. But money talks. You know, VR's a very small market right now.
Super small.
It's not in the place where you can sell enough copies to actually make decent money. So these games are having to be subsidized in order to really shift stuff. So it's a risk. There's no doubt.
Yep.
Anyone else play anything else this week?
I'd love to hear about Neo.
I would like to hear more about Neo, yes, because JP, you've been playing a ton of it.
I've watched a bunch of people play it, but I haven't played it myself, so I'd like to know.
Still very early in the year, but Neo will definitively be on my top 10 list. If you take the direct relationship that everyone makes is Dark Souls, but
of course
there's only the game doesn't play anything like Dark Souls unless you use the axe. If you use the axe, it's a giant fucking weapon that takes large chunks of HP and it's very slow, and that's very Dark Souls in the second to second gameplay.
Yes.
But if you use any other method of playing the game in terms of the weapons, which there are lots, there's, I want to say 5 different weapons and then 2 types of magic. You can't go straight full magic, but it's definitely like you can do different ninjutsu and bullshit to make it your main focus, basically. But yeah, the game has so many fucking systems in it that it's almost kind of hard to start or decide where to start, because it is a Dark Souls-ish game that has a Diablo 3 style loot system in it that is mission based, that is very hard, and also has like a pretty decent story that has to do with real things that happened in feudal Japan.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of all over the place, but it does almost everything really, really well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my one concern with the game is, and I think it's just because of how I've been playing it, I found like this god tier weapon at level 60. The game's also incredibly long. I should also state that.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Like I'm doing end game ish missions right now. I haven't beaten it yet, but I'm like level 93, and I think the missions are like level 120.
How many hours have you played?
I'd probably say around 30 to 35. I don't know the exact hourage, but most people that have tried to like 100% non-new game plus is around 70 hours. And I think most people that just mainline the story beat in around 30 or 35.
That's what I've been hearing, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fantastic. There are systems in this game that are fucking awesome in the second to second combat. The idea that where you actually hit an opponent, it'll do more damage if it's a headshot. So like if you're doing, the way the combat works is before you even swing, you get to decide on your stance. You can have a low, medium, or high stance. Each of these 3 stances have their own different attacks and their own different combos in them for each weapon. So already there's like a billion fucking options right there that you have to consider. And then there's a skill system, so you can use skill points to unlock more combos and more unique abilities. If you like hold down triangle to do like a wind up attack, or you can do like, at least with axe, you can do a stance that'll give you more defense, but it'll lower your attack for a certain amount of time, or it'll boost your attack, but you'll use more stamina or ki as it is in the game for each of your attacks. So there's like a billion ways to fucking play it. And one of the ways to do the ninjutsu stuff is you can basically parry attacks. And if someone comes at you and like swings a sword at you, your guy catches the sword in midair, takes the sword and stabs it back into the guy for a shit ton of damage. And people have found out ways to do that and almost cheese the game by doing like 40,000 damage, because they'll go up to a boss that has a full boss bar, grab the item or grab the weapon in mid strike and just shove it back into the guy and one shot him. So there's ways
that
to
seems
do like
a little overpowered.
Yeah. There's ways to do like quote perfect builds in that sense.
Okay.
And a bunch of streamers have beaten the game and gotten into New Game Plus, which apparently changes the game drastically. I don't know the specifics of it. I know there's a higher tier of items in New Game Plus. It goes into green item rarity at that point, and those are like the best items. There's sets. So if you have 2-piece, 4-piece, 6-piece, 8-piece, whatever, you get different things. And there's like, I don't know, I've probably seen 20 or 30 different sets right now. There's a guardian, which you choose, and you get different abilities depending on what guardian you choose. And it also has a living weapon. So it's kind of like your Uber mode where you deal a little bit more damage, but each strike reduces the amount of living weapon that you have left, and each damage you take reduces it as well.
This sounds so complicated.
It's like
Yeah.
you load in the game, you're just met with like so much shit, and about 10 hours in the game, you're still doing tutorials and still like learning about all the different things in the game.
Wow.
But that it's not a bad experience. You're not frustrated. You know what you need to know when you need to know it.
Okay.
It does a
Right.
very good job of doing that. There's a crafting system, so you can craft everything. There's a reforging system. So if you have if you have a weapon that one of the stats you don't like, you can just reforge that stat in a gamble mode and try to get a better stat for it. If you have a level 10 item and you're level 50 and you don't want to let go of that item, you can soul match the item. So you basically have that item eat a higher level item, and it brings the level 10 item up to level 50. So you can continue using it. It raises all the stats and everything. Some of the items even when you do that, will actually take stats from the item being eaten and apply it to the new item. So you can create like even better items in that sense. There's a PvP system somewhat. There's DLC coming for true PvP. But when someone dies, just in like Dark Souls, there's like a blood stain equivalent left on the ground. But instead of when you hover over it, instead of showing what happened to them, it'll say like so-and-so killed by whatever. And then it has a list of, it's like a circle, and it has all of their gear. And if you hold down circle and summon the Revenant, you kill the Revenant, there's a chance that one of those pieces of gear or 4 of those pieces of gear will drop and you get it. So
Damn.
if you need like an item, you can walk up and look at someone's body and say, well, that guy's got a purple axe. I wonder if that's any good. Summon him. If you kill him, then you might get the purple axe. You can repeat missions, and it actually encourages farming in a lot of cases. If you want better items, you can definitely farm a certain mob or a certain boss over and over as much as you want. The game has a shit ton of stuff going on, and all of it for the most part is like pretty great. I'm trying to think of negatives for the game, but I think the only negative for me is just the way that I decided to play. It got kind of boring because I got that god tier item and I would just spam high attack and high stance, and I never changed stances, and I never changed my attack process. It was just way too strong. But yeah, I don't know. It's a fantastic game, and it right now on Twitch, it's definitely getting overshadowed rather by For Honor. The viewership just isn't there, and I hope it's selling well. They haven't really put out numbers or anything, but everyone that's played it seems to really enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be getting very positive opinions across the board, really. I'm not
Yeah.
seeing any major criticism of the title.
Yeah.
So, I've only played a little bit of it. I just haven't really had the time, but what I played of it, I liked. So
Some of
I'll
the
maybe get
bosses
around to
are
it.
pretty difficult too, and there's a lot. One of the early bosses specifically, which I think is probably like the first test of the game, if there would, or the first barrier in the game, is this like vampire or bat boss basically that paralyzes you. And so if you don't dodge their attack, you basically just get paralyzed and they come up and like 2-shot you. And that's also something that can happen in the game, is that normal enemies do a shit ton of damage to you. Like 3 attacks of a combo from a normal enemy will just flat out kill you. And so it rewards, and almost you have to be able to learn how to dodge and learn how to manipulate the key system, which I didn't even talk about. So the key bar goes down when you use attacks and when you dodge. And in the beginning of the game, if you press R1 when at the specific time of your key meter, you will then regen that stamina back immediately. So there's definitely like key management in the second to second fighting of it. And as you get more skills, eventually when you dodge with hitting X and like do a back step, that'll also regen the key in the same way that the pressing of R1 does. So there's definitely like timing, almost like an active reload from Gears of War in terms of the stamina bar in the fighting, which is a very unique system that I haven't really seen in any other game quite like this. So I'm having a ton of fun with it. I'm going to revisit it tonight. I'm hoping to finish it pretty soon and get into the New Game Plus stuff because I want to see what that's all about. But there's Twilight missions, which are like level 150, 170 missions that change every single day that you can go and do if you're a masochist.
Oh, really?
Really fucking difficult.
So they're trying to have something that people who have completely 100%ed the game, like stuff for those people to still do.
Yeah, totally. They're trying to create, I think, a system where when you beat Dark Souls, you're done with Dark Souls. When you beat Neo, there's still more to do. And there's definitely there are secret bosses and kind of like an epilogue mission style after you beat the main boss of the game, which are supposedly really fucking difficult. But I haven't seen any of those yet, so I can't speak to them.
Awesome. I'm glad they put that kind of stuff in, realizing that sort of longevity is in itself very important, and is one of the main reasons I think that Dark Souls still has the legs that it does. Real smart by them. Very much so.
People in chat, I'm playing on the PS4 Pro. And
as you should.
Yeah, the only reason that's a question that people ask is because one of the cool settings about Neo is you can play at 4K 30 if you want it to look better, or you can play at 1080p 60 if you want it to run better.
Yes.
Which is kind of a cool thing because you don't really see that too much on the consoles.
Yeah, and hopefully there's a lot more of that.
Honestly. Yeah, hopefully other companies adapt that because I think everyone's responding to it pretty strongly.
As bloody well they should, yeah.
I think it was just last week that we were talking about how we just wish that companies would
give people a damn choice.
Yeah, give you options like do this if you want higher frame rate, but maybe it won't look as good, or just give you a description of what your options are. Yeah.
I just want to motion blur off in every game, every console game. I just want to turn motion blur off. I can't fucking stand that, and I'm always so excited when a game comes out on PC because that option is pretty much
there. But you know, ultimately, 2 settings is better than no settings whatsoever, and I'll take it. And unfortunately, some games are exclusive to consoles, so if you're gonna lock it to a goddamn peasant box, at least give me the choice to play it at a higher frame rate. I don't care if it's 720p, it's on a peasant box. It's gonna look like crap anyway. You might as well let me play it properly.
What about a Peasant Box Pro?
The Peasant Box Pro doesn't run most of them better either.
Yeah, well, there was that patch last week that came out that bumped a lot of the old games up to run
the boost mode? I mean, boost mode, it doesn't even get 60 on the pretty much every game. Like, it'll give you a little boost here and there, and there's some stuff like Bloodborne where it doesn't help at all because one, Bloodborne's locked to 30, and secondly, its main issue is actually its frame pacing, not its frame rate, and boost mode does not fix frame pacing at all. So it feels real clunky because the frames aren't being displayed at a regular rate. So that's what a lot of people notice is like, this feels laggy. And what they actually mean is that the frames are they're coming in inconsistently, so it feels a lot jerkier than it should.
Sure. So, that makes sense. But yeah, Neo's fantastic. I have spent several hours off stream, and when I say several, I'm thinking like 10, 15 hours off stream, farming a boss so that I could get better items.
See, so that's how you know the game's actually good, that you played it in a way that didn't involve you being paid for it.
Exactly. Yeah. The Diablo grind of like, all right, I'll go for like 2 more purples, and I'll stop. I get those 2 purples.
That's compelling. That's good.
I didn't really, those aren't that great. Let's go and get 2 more. And then maybe I can record those. Oh, but if I go and kill that guy, maybe he'll drop this set. And so like that stuff starts to form, and that it's got like a lot of stuff that I really just fuel on.
Good. Yeah. Excellent.
So it's good.
Glad to hear that.
I'm having a lot of fun with it.
All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the news and the newly trimmed release segment that will not take an hour, and we've taken most of the shit out of it, unless it's entertaining shit, in which case, or as one might say, king shit. We'll keep the king shit in here.
Yes.
There you go.
We'll be right back, folks. You're watching the Co-Optional Podcast. Do not go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Co-Optional Podcast. A light week on the news front, but a couple of things going on that we would like to talk about before we wrap up the releases. So let's start with this whole Twitch communities thing. Every now and again, we do, of course, talk about...
Sorry, go on. Sorry.
Twitch-related topics. And I think it was just after we went off the air on the delayed Thursday show that they sent us an email regarding Twitch communities. I hadn't actually heard a damn thing about this prior to them just springing it on us. And it's like, yeah. So there's this new feature called Twitch communities. And I'll read out what they said in the email to try and get us to be interested in that. Today, we're incredibly excited to introduce Communities, a new discovery tool to help you connect to the most relevant audiences and help viewers discover content that fits their interests easier and faster than ever. Communities puts the power to discover, share, and connect with new content, friends, and followers in your hands, your grubby little mitts. And yeah, you create a community in the broadcast dashboard, and that's basically all you do, because there's no other functionality beyond that.
Yeah,
Yep.
we ripped it apart last week on the show, and so my thoughts are kind of out there. So I'll let you guys kind of carry the conversation here.
Well, just like it went to shit immediately, right? Because there's no system for you to submit for a community. You just create a community.
Mhm.
So immediately it became a redundant form of searching for a game, because there were like a million communities that were all Super Smash Brothers Melee. It was like, then
Yeah.
that's not a community. That's
it's
not
like
what
how
this is
many
supposed to be.
dashes and underscores, like super underscore, blah, blah. And of course, there was a land,
Melee Bros.
there was an immediate land grab for like as many popular names as you could get and stuff like that. Thankfully, they did put some limitation on that. You had to have an account of a certain age, but you could still register quite a lot of them. So obviously, a ton of communities sprang up overnight. But of course, the main problem that I have with it is that they're not communities of any description.
No, not at all. Well, there are the ones that are using it quote correctly, like speedrunning.
Speedrunning,
Speedrunning is a good example.
Is a great example of a community that is using communities in the way that Twitch, I believe, intended.
It's about the only one that is, really.
Yeah, there's so many things wrong with it. You mentioned land grabbing. There is literal like domain squatting on things that are pretty relevant and pretty important things that could also be very similar to speedrunning, but people are sitting on that. And the thing that sucks is not necessarily that they're sitting on it, it's that they're sitting on it and they won't change the graphics.
Right.
The ones that are successful are the ones that are actually putting time into it and creating custom artwork and custom graphics and all that stuff.
There's actually a reason why half of them aren't, by the way, because we did that and it won't work.
Really?
I cannot get our logos to work. It just keeps saying upload failed over and over again. And
are you using the exact specific?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, and it just doesn't work. I tried different formats. I tried converting to JPEG. I tried converting to fucking bitmap of all things. That didn't work. It's all the proper resolution. It's fucking broken. For ages, we couldn't even. I think we still can't find co-optional in the community list.
You're number 2 right now.
Yeah, because we're on the air and part of the co-optional community. I have to wonder if anyone else is even using it. And here's another weird thing about this, that there is no way at all to stop someone else from joining your community and streaming under it. No,
you can't
there's
whitelist.
No whitelist.
You can only ban.
Yeah. You can only ban. So, we're behind cats only. There are 38 streams. So there are 3 streams under co-optional. These 2 other random motherfuckers who are under here, both streaming for honor with 1 and 2 viewers. Well done, guys. You're really, riding our gravy train all the way to fucking Cash Town by the looks of it. But the thing is, we don't know who these people are, and they have nothing to do with us. And the thing is that the only reason they're there is because they're trying to mooch a couple of viewers. And it's exactly the same problem that we used to have with Twitch before Twitch started to get a bit more strict about it, whereby if a big guy is streaming a game, especially if they're streaming one that not a lot of people are streaming, Lyric, obviously kind of a guy, or Soda Poppin' will stream like a random game at some point that no one else is streaming, then suddenly, out of nowhere, out pops up a few other people who are playing that game, which is fine. That's okay. You want to ride the coattails, that's cool. But then a bunch of other people who just categorize themselves under that and aren't playing that at all.
Right.
And it comes down to whether or not that's reported to a moderator as to whether or not that's even relevant.
I will simply say that I'm not a fan of stupid ideas.
Man, well, that explains your voting preferences.
Yeah, devil's advocate here, though. This reminds me of early MMORPGs. Like, go back a few years when you didn't have to like have 10 or 12 people be your friends and then sign up with you, when literally anyone could start a guild. When you give someone the option to either join or create, if the creation's easy, they're going to create.
Right.
And in the hopes that they'll become something off of like, I'm the leader of this group.
Yes.
And so they have all of these, you have all the exact same thing that you're seeing in communities because people want to be in charge of something and they want to have that control and be like, I'm this guy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I think much like that, eventually people will flock to one group or another, and all of these other things should be eliminated.
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah, like, as time goes on and there becomes a very cohesive, everyone knows that this is like the role play community, or everyone knows this is the speed. All the other like offshoot, it's just like, I'm speedrun 4. Bye. Join real speedrun. That's the whole point of speedrun.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
I feel like keeping it as insane as it is right now lets people figure out where they want to fall. And then at some point they should step in and be like, okay.
The issue with that is that if it's too shitty for too long, people will not bother clicking that thing at all. And I don't really want to call out the people that run this because I'm sure they did it with the best of intentions, but the variety streaming community shows how pointless community is. It's like, oh, right, so all it is a group of channels that play video games.
Yeah, no,
In general,
half the people in there are playing For Honor, by the way. Just want to point that out. It's like, that's not, what is that? It's like, that's Twitch. That's what's called Twitch. Surely.
They should have been very, very specific with things like that. Like, variety community is like
almost everybody streams multiple games. That's not.
Yeah. If you're gonna have communities, it should be stuff like, this is my JRPG community, and this is my
right.
Yeah, that, you see, I like that. You know, that's a good one because that's a genre essentially at that
novel
point.
Community, like those are the communities that people
It should
like,
be genres. That's exactly what it should be.
I think Just Cats is a kind of funny community where if you're on there and you just have cats or shit, hilarious, great. If there's a mukbang community, like those are communities, not every whatever fuck game you want to play community.
Yeah.
That's not a community at that point. And honestly, like the co-optional community isn't either. Like our group is nothing. It's nothing.
To be honest, like the way that you're utilizing it by having a community called Co-optional is a redundant form of what a team.
It's completely useless. It's just the same as what team was.
That's
with
why
less
there's not a role
functionality.
play community yet, because then it would be ITMEJP streaming role play on the team role play within the community role play.
The only reason I grabbed it was to make sure that no other fucker did before, right?
Yeah.
You know,
like, what does that mean?
There's no reason.
The other thing that I think really sucks, and I've heard this from a couple of different creative streamers that I'm close with, is that they've established like this whole hashtag system in creative, right?
Yes, I heard about that.
And now they're being told you can't use hashtags anymore. You have to use
That's bullshit.
So if they're doing like multiple forms of art all pushed together and they were using multiple hashtags, they now have to say, okay, which one I guess is the most important.
Yeah,
they
that's
only
dumb.
Choose one, which is
their
really
system was way better.
Yeah,
I'm actually kind of surprised they just don't use that. Just use a tagging. I'd love being able to
I
tag
think they
your
should
stream.
have
Is
expanded
great.
hashtags across the whole site.
Yes, make it official
great for creative.
I think the reason that they didn't is because then titles get really spammy. And
I guess so.
Yeah, but then, you implement official system, so it's not in the title. So you have a drop-down menu where you can maybe pick 3 or 4 hashtags, and then, of course, they can moderate the hashtag to make sure there's no offensive ones or whatever. That's easy enough done. Steam did that very easily. And then people can break it down by category. Because there are genuine uses for this sort of thing if it's done properly, but communities is maybe one of the worst ways of approaching that idea that people want to search for streams not just by game. They're interested in either a style of the game being played, which again is why the speedrunning community is great, or they're not necessarily looking for a specific game. They're looking for a type of game. So competitive arena shooter,
or just type of streamer.
Or fighting games, that kind of thing. They're looking for a kind of streamer or a kind of genre. That's what that could be used for, but that's not what communities would do. And in its current form, it doesn't do anything. Let's be honest.
Yeah, there are a lot of issues with it. The other thing that I think is kind of weird is, and I understand the reasoning for it, but a lot of streamers have used it as a way to extend their brand.
Yeah.
And so that's what they'll create.
Of course
a
I
community.
did.
Yeah. Like
Why
it's
wouldn't I?
co-optional
Yeah.
community. But I think that's not necessarily the best way to do this either.
No, of course it isn't. But the thing is, if you've got a broken system and you don't exploit that broken system, then you're missing an opportunity. The fact of the matter is the system should be better.
I don't know that I agree with that, but
that's why I've got more subscribers than you. The fact of the matter is,
you're absolutely right.
You know, if it's not horribly immoral, you should use the system to the fullest extent of it. But the system is shit. There's no doubt about it. I would prefer the system to be an awful lot better. It reminds me of when I set up the frame rate police on Steam, where there was a bunch of websites that wrote complaining about it, which was hilarious, by the way. But it was just like, dude, I shouldn't even be having to do this because really, you should just be able to tag those games that way. But Valve banned the 30 FPS tag. That's why I had to use a curator for it. Be like, well, that's not what curator is for. Actually, it turns out it is now because they altered it.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, I mean, that's the only reason that exists because they actually banned the 30 FPS tag. There are much better ways of doing that, which is It's a very, I mean, this is a great parallel, like you're saying, because the creatives guys' hashtag system is better than this, and they should just officially support that instead.
I really want to see what they do with this because I think we have all said it needs a complete reworking.
Yeah,
but
pants.
Twitch has never
Doesn't do
gone
anything.
back and done a complete reworking of anything on their site. So I don't is this going to be the first product where they eventually do that? Is this going to change? Are we eventually going to see kind of what Jesse said, where the bad stuff will weed its way out? And it kind of has.
Maybe.
Yesterday, there were a bunch of communities. There was one just called Butts that no longer exists.
Sure.
There's one called Big Dongs that no longer exists.
I think this is one of the things that it's easier on a company side to just, instead of jumping in now and being like, oh boy, we goofed, just to let it play out and then be like,
and then make
you
a
might
big
as well.
comment. Yeah. There's a company spin here where they can be like, see how all these communities formed, and now we're gonna lift up those communities that are really cohesive. And
well, they're already doing that. I mean, they've been tweeting the speedrunning community nonstop. That's
because it's literally the only example of a good one.
that's the golden child of the entire thing, and that's why they've been tweeting it for sure. Yeah,
pretty much. They're just gonna do a lot more with it, and like I said, the lack of whitelisting is kind of ridiculous. We can't even say, originally when I set up, it's like, all right, well, we're just going to basically use it as a team. And, if you tune into anything that's in the co-optional community, you're guaranteed a guy that's experienced with a good mic and hopefully a decent personality. I mean, you might run into Crendor sometimes, but most of the time you'll be totally fine. At least he's got a good mic. He's got that going for him, which is nice. He is a functional person. He has been known to speak, sometimes incoherent sentences. But the fact of the matter is that it's useless because literally anyone can join. I don't know who the fuck these guys are.
And then the thing is if you ban them, if you ban them, then it becomes an issue you got to deal with.
Yeah, and I don't want to deal with.
And you don't want to be that guy because
no, you don't, because you get a rep.
You get a rep, and you'd have oh yeah, that guy banned me. That becomes a story oh, that guy banned me from his community for some reason.
And you should never have to use a ban unless it's actually someone who's taking the piss. And here's the thing, I don't fucking know. Are we going to go and check these guys out all the time to make sure they're not fucking... No, we're not.
No moderator of a community is going to do that.
In a million years. It's hard enough to moderate one chat. You got who the fuck is moderating variety streaming that has 142 streamers on right now in it? Jesus. Yeah. No, that's not going to happen. So yeah, it's just right now it's a useless system. They've got to do some major reworking and actually build a proper feature set because it barely has one. It shouldn't have even launched in its current state. Why is there a World of Warcraft community when World of Warcraft is just a game list, for God's sake?
There's one for Overwatch too.
People just use it for games and it doesn't make sense.
I don't think people fully understand what this is because if anything, it should be competitive Overwatch is the community.
Yes, that makes sense.
Or Warcraft PvP, right? Or that's the community, right? That's the focus. Just saying Warcraft is it's the fucking game, guys.
It's the game. Yeah. It's that's WoW PvP or WoW RP, as you said, would be much more useful.
WoW RP is a great community that you could create where you have RP players who are all streaming together. That's genius.
Yeah,
It's
competitive Overwatch is another one that I think is it's already been made, but I think it's a good.
Yeah, that's
For the most
decent.
part.
That makes a reasonable amount of sense, but the vast majority of it is bollocks. And
Yeah,
especially the ones that, we're guilty of it, that are just created around a streamer or a brand are basically useless.
it's just an extension of the brand. Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
People, fans of that streamer, can then stream under it, but it's I don't know. It's just
that
a
doesn't
bigger
help.
way to spotlight the streamer.
Yeah, no one's gonna go watch those though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's
At
the
least
basic
not
reality of it.
in great success. For sure.
and you know what would help a game like Invisigun, for example, is if there was a community that was like competitive indie games,
Yes.
right? Like
Or
games you play
couch
with
games.
friends.
Yeah,
Couch games. You play with friends online, stuff like that. That is the shit that would make a good community.
And again, that's something that's
We could make it, but
maybe the main issue that I have with all this is the good ways of using this are scarce enough that Twitch could have just done it themselves.
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They
Totally.
did not need to make it open to everyone.
Yeah.
I understand why they did, because then they don't have to do anything.
Yes.
But they could have done this on their own,
Mhm.
without a doubt.
Yeah, I'm hoping that since they're like, it's in beta right now, that maybe they'll just shut the whole thing down and then restart it. And then,
I highly doubt that, but we'll see.
uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, so that's really all there is to say about it, because there's not exactly much of a feature to discuss. But yeah, I hope they do something more with it. Just make it good. Make it good. That's all I'm asking.
make it good, guys.
Yeah.
Just,
Not-
Just like
don't make
stop fucking up.
Yeah. We're
Yeah.
all everyone knows that I have all my opinions dictated directly to me by Jesse these days. So I also do not like
Absolutely
bad
true.
ideas. I'm not
Hold
a
on,
fan
I
of them.
text you more opinions.
Okay, yeah, just send those over right now, just so that I know what to think for the next 6 days. Thank you. Right, moving on. Steam Direct. So, Valve announcement, they're getting rid of Greenlight. They've been wanting to do this for quite literally years, but we're on Valve time, so it took them a while. And eventually, they have finally announced they've got a replacement for it. It's called Steam Direct, which basically means the voting is gone. No more voting from people. You fill in some paperwork, you send them some money, and then you get on Steam.
Yep.
Right. Wow.
Hey, that fixed the problem, didn't it?
I have not
Problem
heard of that.
solved.
That's
Like,
the first I've heard of this, and that sounds completely ridiculous. What the fuck?
Yeah,
So-
immediately everybody was like, "Oh, good! Valve figured out a way to make more money and do less
and
work."
do nothing. Yeah, exactly. Do absolutely nothing. At least this is even worse. I mean, in some ways, anyway. The whole point is they want to put a barrier in the way of people releasing bullshit that doesn't work, or bullshit that is stolen from something else, or bullshit that is a game that's like a fucking asset flip of default Unity stuff that you buy from the store. Basically, this stuff that's complete dog shit and is usually just sold to make money off trading cards and all that kind of thing. And they want to put a barrier in the way, and that barrier is fill out some electronic paperwork and pay us some money. Here's the thing. Greenlight already had a fee. It was $100. It didn't do shit.
Yeah.
It did not stop anything. So their plan is, well, what if we increased the fee? Well, here's the problem with increasing the fee. Yes, you may, possibly, maybe, avoid some of those complete garbage games as a result of that. You may be able to be the gatekeeper at that point. But you also put undue hardship on people that are actually creating stuff that is good, that just don't have an awful lot of disposable money to throw at you for the right to put the game on your store.
Yep.
Yes. So the issue of what the fee should be is, of course, debatable. A lot of numbers have been thrown around. They've said potentially up to $5,000. Now, needless to say, that's the number that a bunch of gaming websites jumped on and immediately said, this is a disaster for everybody.
Right.
Of course, they actually never said that they were going to do $5,000. They're still deciding on what the number could possibly be.
Right.
So there's a couple of issues of it. One, the amount of money. They did say that there was a way to potentially recoup it. They have not in any way explained what that way is, because of course they didn't, because they're Valve. Secondly, the other issue is they're still not fucking curating their store. And in fact, it seems like they're now doing
big
even
problem
less work.
It's not fixed.
Yes, they're doing even less work to keep their store nice and tidy and to make sure that it's full of quality products and not full of shit that doesn't work and all that sort of thing. And I know some people, I hate these people, by the way, are like, well, why should they curate? No other digital store curates. Or, even stupider, no other real store curates. Really? Is that true? Okay, cool. Yeah. Remind me of the last time that you walked into a store and regularly found a bunch of products that set themselves on fire and aren't called Samsung Galaxy Note 7. Hey, topical. Or something along those lines. Or shit that just flat out doesn't work that's completely covering the shelves. Every now and again you'll run into a product like that. But generally speaking, a store will look at the product and they'll stock things that will actually sell.
Fuck right. Look, go to a grocery store.
Yes.
Things are put on shelves at eye level versus different places based on like what they're trying to sell you.
They curate the living fuck out of real stores.
Insane if you think other stores don't curate.
Yeah, I mean, I worked at Game for 3 years, and every Wednesday we had to completely rearrange the fucking store, which included taking stuff off the shelves that wasn't selling, rearranging stuff that we wanted to push into certain eye-level areas of the store, like you mentioned, but stuff that's prominent and all that sort of thing. And do you think we just sold every game? No, because obviously, and people argue, well, that's because you have limited shelf space. True enough, and Steam does not, but there's another issue. Even if we didn't, if we had an infinite game store, it'd be real fucking hard to find what you were looking for. You wanted to go window shopping. It's like, oh, great, there's 90,000 games in our physical store, and 80,000 of them are complete dog shit that don't work. That makes finding the other good 10,000 ones a pretty goddamn difficult thing to do.
Right.
And on digital stores, that's even worse, as we have seen. We just gave you a good fucking example of something that's got completely overlooked despite being goddamn amazing. nvisigun Heroes didn't even hit the new release section. For God's sake. And that's great. That's amazing. That's a super high quality, that's top 10 Game of the Year material already. And it didn't even hit the fucking list. The other issue, with physical stuff, there are laws that are covering things like, I don't know, the fact that products shouldn't explode and burn your house down. There is quality assurance for these kind of things, and there are real consequences when they do that sort of thing. Yeah. Consequences for the retailer and for the manufacturer. When it comes to software, there's fuck all. Fuck all. And apparently that's a reason for Valve to just dodge all responsibility. Yeah. No, I don't agree. I've never agreed with that. They should not have to dodge all responsibility.
Did they say anything else about the program in terms of how it's going to be structured? Because the only thing that I saw about it was just the fact that they're going to charge more to get entered into it.
No, they just talked about the potential of charging some amount of money. It's like between 100 and 5,000. I believe once you have paid the fee, you probably will not have to pay again.
In terms of putting a new game on there or something?
Yeah, I don't believe so. I think because you had to pay $100 for every greenlight thing you listed. And of course, that it does take out a bunch of the bullshit in the sense of those companies that were creating fake votes and getting things through greenlight. Their business model is now up in flames. Ha, ha, ha. But aside from that, it doesn't fix most of the problems that either we have as gamers or indie devs have as developers. It doesn't help either of them.
Yeah, sounds like another shitty program.
Yeah. Oh, apparently there is a fee per game, so evidently I was wrong. I got that mixed up. It was the other way around.
Apparently there's what?
Apparently it is a fee per game.
Okay.
Yeah. And that could be a real stinger, obviously. I imagine they'd probably scale the fee, but I have to wonder exactly on the basis of what grounds.
Right.
That's who would make that call. I mean, because you know what that would require, Jesse. I'm sure you would. It begins with a C.
I don't.
No,
I don't follow. What?
Genitals.
Yes. Balls is what it would require, or ovaries, but either would work in this scenario. Don't mind.
Reproductive organs.
Reproductive organs are required in this instance. Curation. that would require curation. And you know they're not willing to fucking do that. And that's the problem. And I know exactly what some people are going to say. Didn't you complain when they curated before the green light system? Because that stopped certain games from getting on the store. Wasn't that terrible? Yes, but there's a middle ground between those two things.
Yeah.
Fuck everyone who's like, it's got to be this or this. Like, there's this whole area.
Everything gets in and nothing gets in. It's like, what?
That's not the point. Like, there's a perfect middle ground. All it takes, real talk, is for Valve to spend money to pay people. It's their job.
And there's the problem. There's the problem. You know?
That's all.
Some people's like, oh, it's impossible. There's too many games. Well, Jim Sterling actually did a little informal count and was looking at Greenlight, and he was estimating that about 100 games a day get submitted to Greenlight. Now, of course, bear in mind, that's actually not that many when you think about it. Bear in mind, a lot of those
Steam,
won't get through
I didn't
either.
think it was that many.
Even then, you just get a team of 10 people to do all they need to do. They don't even need to be huge critics like, well, we're going to play for 80 hours and test everything. No, you don't need that. You don't need that. You just need someone that, one, tests that it has an executable. That's useful because shit has ended up on Steam that didn't. Does it load?
Yeah.
You know, maybe have two PCs and say, all right, does it load? Is it crashing every 5 minutes? Does it delete Windows? No? Great.
I mean, most of that stuff you could probably automate.
Some of it you could, yeah.
You don't even need a person to see that stuff, right?
Yeah. You know, are there massive gaping assholes in the first 5 minutes of the game? No? Phenomenal. Great. Good to know. Is there
I want that job. I want to just stare at a monitor. Just like, here's the next game. Is there a giant gaping asshole? Yes and no.
I think that job's available in the FBI, right? I think that's... Go join the FBI. I'm sure they'd let you do that.
Yeah.
But, you know, is there obvious copyright infringement and stolen assets and bullshit? You know, is there malicious code? Really, that's most of what people are looking for. They're not looking for Steam to be the grand arbiter of what is good. It's like, you can only let 9.0 or higher onto the store. No, we realize there are going to be shit things that end up on the store. What we would like is at least a base level of quality. You know, things that actually load would be nice. That would be pretty good. There's at least a few things that they could do to improve that. But that involves Valve's direct involvement. And we know that they really don't like that. You know, they don't like getting their hands dirty with that sort of thing. Despite the fact that, frankly, they should. I'm getting a little bit tired of Valve shoveling the responsibility of running their store onto everybody except themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting real fucking tiresome at this point.
Yeah.
There you go. So we'll find out more about Steam Direct, no doubt, over the next few weeks, because the system they have given is a little rough. There's only one other thing that I'd like to comment on regarding that, and that was part of their statement that I am going to just call them out as basically complete bullshit.
Go on.
So they announced the whole Steam Direct thing, and they were talking about Greenlight, and they said this. There are now over 100 Greenlight titles that have made at least $1 million each. Sounds great, right? And many of those would likely not have been published in the old, heavily curated Steam store. Bullshit. No fucking way is that true. You know what would be nice is if they actually listed those games. If they actually, like, oh, really? There's over 100? Give me a list. I'll tell you that's bullshit. It is the old system, it kind of sucked, but I can only think off the top of my head of 3 games that would have fallen anywhere close to that category, and probably still didn't make $1 million, that were denied initial entry to the store. And they did eventually get in there. And that was An Epic Game, Space Pirates and Zombies, and Paranormal Activity. And when it came to Paranormal Activity, it turned out that the devs went completely insane and ended up getting their game banned off Steam anyway for doing a bunch of dumb shit. So, actually, no. I don't believe for a second that a bunch of those $1 million or higher grossing games would have actually been rejected under your old system. I don't believe that for a heartbeat. That's nonsense.
Yeah, they would have ended up on there somehow.
Of course they would have.
Yeah.
Of course. No doubt.
Yeah.
It's just an excuse. It really is. All right. Well, that's that. That was fun. That was a good little warm-up for the big round table we're going to be doing tomorrow on this particular subject with a few indie devs and the guy that runs Steam Spy, so I can't wait for that. Shall we move on to releases?
Hit us, Dukes.
Well,
Hit us with them releases, Dukes.
I am sending them in your general direction. So
I already sent them to them.
Yeah, Dukes is on
wow,
top of
you
it.
are on top of this shit.
They
Good
already
luck.
They already have it.
So we're doing something that Valve has never done, which is curate. And specifically here, we got Dodger to curate the list this week.
This is the curated list, Brooke.
Yes,
oh,
this
shit,
is the
though.
Yeah, this is the curated
Damn.
list.
Way
so
bigger than
consider how
this.
fucking long it is. So what we've done, at least the instruction was, we have cut out everything that looks like complete, total, uninteresting dog shit.
I can't wait to see what you left in.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm very interested as well. We also discovered why we were missing a bunch of console games off our usual release lists. Apparently, they weren't being collated properly. So now they are. So that should make things a little bit easier. Let us begin.
All right, so the first one is called Neo Atlas 1469. If I remember it, this is a strategy game.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
you
looks
play the
pretty
role of the
interesting.
master of a trading company. It's actually by Arc System Works, the guys that made BlazBlue and Guilty Gear.
Yeah, that's right.
Which
This
is
is a strange game for them.
It is, yeah. Very, very odd one, but interesting.
Well, this looks like a mobile game.
It
Could be on a mobile platform.
It's not a great looker, I'll say that. And actually
Okay,
for
all
Arc
right.
System Works, I'm really kind of surprised by that. But it looks interesting nonetheless. Being able to explore this weird world and be a trading company and all that kind of thing. I'm intrigued. I'm going to play it. I've got code for it actually, so I'll probably play it over the next week or so.
Yeah.
$30.
Yeah, it's a little steep, especially for a new IP. So I'm a bit concerned that might not end up rolling out very well. We'll see. It does look interesting though.
Yeah.
The next game is called Semi-Spheres. It's like a side-by-side puzzle game that looks really cool. It's also coming out on PS4 today.
Apparently, it has 1,000,001 awards from random indie game shows that I haven't heard of, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
a
just saw that in
meditative
the trailer.
parallel puzzle game that places dual realities at the part of it. So you actually control two things together at the same time. So there's a couple of games that have reminded me of that. Playing with a controller is highly recommended. Yeah, it's a brothers situation. So if you don't have two analog sticks, you're in trouble.
Right. The next game is called When Our Journey Ends. It's a visual novel with kind of a cool, not necessarily a cool art style, but like the way that everything is colored looks very watercolory. I like it.
Whoa, that does look really cool.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't look like this. It's not it's not a standard sort of anime bullshit style of visual novel, which is nice because let's be honest, Steam has been saturated by that kind of thing lately.
This was a Kickstarter game.
Ah, very nice.
The next one is called I Saw Her Standing There. I was trying to decide whether or not to keep this one.
Okay.
Tell us why you decided to keep it. That's
Well,
the
because
more interesting one.
both TB and I have in the past enjoyed games that are kind of like strategic moving around a board game.
Uh-huh.
And just like glancing at the thumbnails, it looked like that's sort of what it's supposed to be. So
Yeah, kind of. It's an action puzzle game about death, goofy love, and pancakes, so they claim. You can chase deer, fight pirates, fall in love, and eat pancakes. Hundreds of levels involved in that. Yeah, so it is an interesting movement-focused puzzle game of sorts. It looks pretty neat.
It's got Ghost from Mario in it, apparently. Or not Mario. Now I'm just gonna fail that I can't remember. this old
Pac-Man,
school game.
are you going
Yes,
for that?
thank you.
There you go. Saved your bacon.
Thank you.
Also
Yes.
has a level editor, so that's kind of cool.
Cool.
the next game is called Revolve, and it's a platform, like a sci-fi platformer that looks kind of cool.
Trigger active platformer. No direct control. Need to boost gravity and momentum to escape a dystopian future thing. I like the art style.
Yeah,
I don't
art
know what
style's real
any of
cool.
this shit actually is. Honestly, it looks like you're like a weird drone or something. But
Or like a little motorcycle that's kind of like
Sort of.
magnetic or some shit.
yeah, but I like the idea of not being able to directly control and having to manipulate the environment and gravity in order to make your way through. That's pretty cool.
Next game is called Boor, in all caps, Boor.
Boah.
It's a
This was-
side-scrolling 2D puzzle game.
That it is. Players a girl with the ability to multiply herself, stranded on Eden, a beautiful but strange world. Challenging puzzles. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't play it then. That's far too hard for me. But yeah, there you go. Oh, that's kind of neat. And it's a grand total of $4 for that one.
Looks like there's a Agricola
Yay.
DLC or like expansion called All Creatures Big and Small.
Yeah, it's a standalone game, if I recall correctly. It's a different sort of spin on Agricola, which was a very famous, and still is a very famous farming board game. It also has cross-platform multiplayer, which is a nice little feature.
This was another one that I wasn't sure whether or not to leave in.
Okay.
It's called Prototype.
Prototype.
Hype. Yeah.
That's awkward as hell.
Yeah, that's really weird to say.
Yeah. Short game experience.
It looks like a super fucked up, weird, surreal game that Jesse would like, so I kept it in.
Okay. Apparently it's super short, whatever it is. I'm watching the trailer.
I cannot even tell you what this is.
I'm getting no ideas at all from this as
For
to
a
what this
young
is supposed to be. Huh. Okay.
Whoa.
Right. Well, it's one of those first-person experiences by the looks of it.
Yeah, it's a weird short thing.
Indeed.
The next one is called Among the Innocent, A Stricken Tale.
A
And this one just looks like a beautiful point-and-click puzzler.
First-person adventure thriller inspired by classic point-and-click adventure games with intrigue, puzzle-solving, and exploration. It's pretty.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
aesthetically very nice. Apparently takes place in South Africa, in Eastern Free State, which is not a area of the globe which is often used. It actually looks
Right.
a little bit like The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. I'm getting a bit of a vibe,
yeah, a little bit.
that kind of vibe from it.
Next game's For Honor, which
Of course.
we all know.
Yeah, I think we
And
all
after
know
that-
about that one.
Yeah. Game after that is Laser Lasso Ball, which has kind of a Nidhogg feel to it.
This looks like it could be fun.
Like
The
a weird
deadliest.
1v1 that looks kind of fun.
Deadliest sport in the universe. Beings from across the galaxy battle to become stars in this local multiplayer. God damn it. Alien death sport. I was in it up until that point. I do love those weird futuristic sports games, fucking roller derby, disco dodgeball, and all that kind of thing. Unfortunately, it is a... Also, can you explain to me exactly why the first 30 seconds of the trailer is just trees very slowly panning?
Those are the contestants, apparently.
Yeah, it just looks like trees.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
But yeah, so
It's pretty rad.
it does actually. It's probably extremely fun by the looks of it. But I get exactly where you're getting the Nidhogg thing from as well, because it's very sort of instant death sort of thing. Yeah, that's neat. It's very cheap too. Apparently, it's $1. Actually, no, it's about $3. Yeah.
$3. Yeah. The random is the reason that all of these games are local multiplayer only. Is netcode that hard to put into this type of stuff?
Can be. Yeah. It can be pretty tricky. So I imagine that's probably the reason a lot of these games are like that.
Okay.
Still a bit of a shame though.
Yeah, there's so many of them that I would just love to play, but it's all
Yeah,
local multiplayer
totally.
only.
Yep.
The game after that is MX Nitro. It's a motorbike racing game.
Motorbike racing name, MX Nitro, or Saber Interactive. Why have I heard of them before? And why do I think that I haven't heard of them for good reasons?
Saber Interactive.
Yeah. Oh dear. They were the guys. Time Shift. A not very good FPS at all. I knew them from somewhere. Yeah, they made their Time Shift about 6 or 7 years ago, which was a really awesome idea for a concept, but a really lousy first-person shooter.
They're
So-
also credited for Quake Champions in some variety.
Really? That's strange.
At least according to Google.
I guess they must be. They're probably contracted out in some way. I mean, honestly, I like the look of the actual game itself, although it looks very Trials-like.
Yeah.
It looks pretty fun.
They worked on the Master Chief collection too in some fashion.
Oh, there must be sort of a mercenary studio then, sort of doing grunt work.
They also did RIPD to the game. So
Oh
it makes sense
no,
now.
were they were the guys responsible for that? Oh, that game was fucking terrible.
Yeah, and
Oh.
Battle Los Angeles and
Oh.
Will Rock in 2003.
Wow. I again, I don't know if they were just responsible for porting it, but Jesus Christ.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay, because I think RIPD the game was by the guys that made God Mode, which was really bad as well.
These guys worked on God Mode.
Really? because they're not. That's not the name of the studio that made it. I wonder. There's some weird shit going on there. I wonder if they renamed their company or something.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm just looking at the
suspicious. Very suspicious.
Google. Yeah.
Sniper Elite 4 is the next game, which we also talked about.
That we did, yes.
The game after that is called Animal Lover.
Okay.
It's a visual novel where all of the boys get turned into animals. And you have to try and cure
I
them.
think we should stop letting Dodger curate the release
Weird
list.
weird thing about this.
Uh-huh.
I think we already know what the weird thing is, but okay.
In both the video and the thumbnails, there's no picture of any of these boys as an animal.
Not a one.
You gotta
Are they
buy
trying
if
to
you
keep
want
it a
the animal.
secret what animal they turn into? I'm
maybe.
intrigued.
God.
I think maybe. I think Frankie's a cat by the looks of it. I was getting that idea from it.
That reminds me, now that we're talking about weird anime games.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever played Galgun Double Peace?
Oh God, that one. I've heard of it.
I played it the other day. I forgot that I played that because it was 2 hours that I'll never be able to get back.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that the one where you're shooting bubbles at anime girls and their clothes fall off or something?
I mean, bubbles is a way that you could say that. It's more just like a love gun that shoots a
yes,
white,
the love gun, of course.
Oh,
a
Christ's
white
sake.
laser.
Great.
I got that.
And then you can press square and go into the, I forget what the mode's called, but it's basically a rubbing simulator at that point.
For fuck's sake.
If you pay $80, I think there's the full nude DLC if you want to go
Where's
down.
my royalties? They're copying my life.
My God. Next.
It's a weird game, but go ahead.
Next is the new Holy Potatoes game. Holy Potatoes are in space.
We actually didn't get a chance to talk about that because both of us have played that.
Yeah,
Pretty
it's fun though.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm not 100% sure if it's not all that in depth, but it has gameplay and it's funny as well. It's got a lot of character to it. Tons of references everywhere.
The next game is for PS4. It's called Monster Loves You. It's that game where you start off as a newly born monster and you decide whether you want to be a good monster or a bad monster with your twin as you grow up.
It's a choose your own adventure, basically. Yeah, it's finally been ported to PS4. It's good. It's a good little fun game. I enjoyed it.
After that is Ride 2. I'm trying to remember what that is.
That's on PS4 as
That's
well.
a great generic name. This could be a winner.
I know, right?
Yeah, not Tony Hawk's Ride 2, by the way. As far as I know,
Ride 2.
yeah, it's just it's a motorbike game. Yeah.
Another motorbike game.
That's a $60 game.
That does not look like a $60 game.
After that is Toy Odyssey: The Lost and Found.
Oh, I heard some
Which
things
is
about
also on Steam already.
It is, yeah. I heard some pretty good things about this.
Very nice.
Action adventure platformer. You explore randomly generated house at night, defeating bosses in the unique rooms as a toy, essentially. It looks pretty cool. Yeah, it's got roguelike elements in it in the sense that it's randomly generated in places.
Huh.
It does look pretty good.
This next one, is kind of a generic platformer game. It's called Vertical Drop Heroes.
Yeah, it's procedural platformer RPG hybrid with roguelike elements, which just sound like Buzzword City to me.
Right, yeah. And after that is Halo Wars 2 Ultimate Edition and Halo Wars Definitive Edition.
Yes, Xbox One and PC. Those are only available on the Windows 10 store, by the way, so you'll have to...
$79, it looks like.
Yeah, the $79 version comes with both. The problem is if you want to play the original Definitive Edition, they're pulling a Infinite Warfare right now, whereby you can only get it if you get Halo Wars 2 Ultimate. So...
Halo Wars 2 comes out next week, though, right?
Yeah, apparently you can get it 4 days early, I think, if you buy the Ultimate Edition, which is probably why it's mixed up a bit in the release list.
I wonder if I can stream it early then.
Maybe. I might try and buy it today, actually, because obviously it's an RTS, so I'm interested. I did play the beta of the Blitz mode, although that had a lot of problems, so I'm hoping that the final release version is better than that.
Yeah, I think I got an Xbox One code, and that's why I didn't check it out, because I want to save it for PC. So.
Yeah, you'll have to venture into the wretched hive of scum and villainy that is the Windows Store, but yeah.
Yeah, I did that for Forza, so.
Indeed. Sometimes just gotta do what you gotta do. You just gotta, just remember to use protection.
Exactly.
Moving on to February 15th, we have Nine Dragons, which is a free-to-play MMO set in China with martial arts in it.
Quite a few of those. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard of quite a few, and some of them are quite fun, actually. There's some really cool combat systems, but I haven't played this one yet.
The game after that is called Drop Zone Squad Edition.
Oh, finally.
I do know. Yeah, I know about this one as well. I played this on stage at PAX, actually, completely
Yeah,
out
that's
of
cool.
nowhere. I wasn't, like, paid to do it or anything. I just said, hey, you want to, like, go on stage and play our game? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? It's, they bill it as kind of a cross between an RTS and a MOBA style game. So you farm creeps, you set up you get 3 heroes, and they're customizable mechs with different weapons and pilots and shit. And you basically micro 3 units, and you try and beat the other guy's team. And you're farming to get levels up for them and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I played a bunch of it. Crank plays it, by the way. I had Crank, the ex-captain of my Korean esports team, plays Drop Zone. And they got people you'd know, actually, JP. Kalaris, they got over there to play it. Take and Zoe as well. They got her over to give it a try. What I played about PAX was pretty fun. I will say that at least when I was playing, a lot of it was spent sort of farming creeps and not fighting the enemy, but I was playing at a fairly low level. But my competitive record is 4 wins and 1 loss. Which is why I will never play again, to maintain that.
The customization that you can do with your team, you can go with your trinity of your tank and your healer and your like damage dealer.
Yeah,
but
you don't have to.
I did this douchey sneak move where I made 2 tanks, and one was like a shieldy tank, and the front of the mech was like a spider that had these like pounders. And so
I love that visual element.
Yeah. So I had this one guy who would go in and just like take all the shots, and the pounder guy would just slam the ground behind him and kill all the healers that were trying to like get behind the guy. And then my healer would just be in the back like electrocute you back to life. And I'm like, it's a lot of fun. The customization you can do. I think there's a
lot of different weapons available. Yeah, and it is all visual as well, and they're so over the top. The ground pounders, I had one with a giant like bulldozer with spikes on it that just ran people over, and they all have different abilities attached to those weapons. I had a flamethrower guy. Yeah, it's supposed to be free to play. The squad edition gets you like all the pilots so far. Otherwise, you're doing the whole unlock pilots a free rotation thing. So I'm glad that it's coming out on Steam because the beta up to this point hasn't had many players, so this will probably help that.
Looks
all
cool.
right.
Next up is called Hidden Folks. It looks like the most infuriating hidden object game ever.
I heard this described as
the things that you're looking for are super tiny.
Where's Wally? Or in your case, where's Waldo?
Where's Waldo?
Yeah.
You guys call it Where's Wally?
Yeah, we call it Where's Wally, yes. We call it Where's Wally. Yeah, that's basically what it is. It's an entire game of Where's Wally for some reason. But there you go. It's all hand drawn.
In the US, that's a much better name.
It is.
Whoa.
After that is Sky Sanctuary, which is basically what we were talking about wanting. It's just like I'm walking around in a peaceful VR scenario and
nothing's trying to murder me.
That's neat. Yeah, nothing trying to kill you.
Probably still scary though.
Oh, it's really horrifying. You're like, oh.
That's just because you're a coward. Let's be honest. Yeah, yellow belly son of a bitch. Next.
After that is Siren, Syren.
Look, it's a VR horror game.
A VR survival horror game, yeah.
Yep, there you
Underwater, just because you wanted more PTSD. Thank you, video games.
You got to play that full playthrough coming up tomorrow?
Fuck that.
Shit. Okay.
Oh my god. Nope.
Going back to good times, Kapoka, the wardrobe. Oh no, just Kapoka, sorry.
Just Kapoka.
Kapoka is a game where you're a bird.
You play bird, and you make it. You're looking for twigs to make a nest.
I like that.
Life.
Sure, that's zen. I like that idea. Cool.
Yeah,
make
cool.
a nest.
The wardrobe.
Yes, the wardrobe is the next one. Yes, not in fact the same thing at all.
Very obviously, like a we loved '90s point and clicks.
Oh yeah. That's most of the description of it. It's like, this is like Day of the Tentacle and Sam and Max and all these other more successful games.
Mm-hmm. And then after that is Speciation TD.
I'm glad you could figure out how to say that.
Yeah.
I was looking at like,
that's a great marketing name there. So
people
So
will do a
easy.
real.
So easy to
When people just start replacing words with
yeah.
Z so that it represents zombies, I do want to find them and club them over the head
It's
with
such a
2x4.
catchy way to really get
I'm
your
thrilled they put it at the beginning instead of the end.
Um,
Different.
Who wants zombie tower defense? Not me.
well, I kept it in because it looks different from the normal zombie tower defense games that
The
like this
graphics don't look bad.
it straight up just looks like you're in a dump. So you're like,
Yeah.
how do I protect my dump?
Indeed.
And I thought
How
that,
do I protect my dump?
how do I protect
A
my
great
dump?
question. February
Moving
16th.
on to the 16th, we have Herald, which is a period drama,
An
Wow.
interactive period
sort of
drama.
visual novel. It has really pretty artwork.
Oh yeah, actually, it's that does look really good. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
got some nice art going on with it. Yeah.
This next game I kept in for you, TB, because it seems like the sort of game you would play. It's called Mall Empire.
Ah, yes. There's a couple of competing like mall games at the moment. There's another brick in the mall, which is the
Ooh.
other one. This one though looks like it's complete rather than early access. This reminds me this is very Sim Tower-esque in the way that it's a 2D side-on thing. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't like the look of it.
I don't like the art style either. No. But we'll see. Maybe it looks better in motion. But yeah, I'll check that out. That is actually up my alley.
Elisa the Innkeeper is another one.
Sure. Elisa the Innkeeper. Inspired
It's
by
another
Italian
visual
culture.
novels, another
Yeah.
visual novel. Period.
Well, that
Yep.
was Kickstarter.
Yep.
How much did it raise?
Wait, this is an early access visual novel.
Yeah, weird, right?
Yeah, that's a
Mystery.
very strange genre to do that in.
Raised 10,000. Original goal 4K.
Yep.
Next
Okay,
game
next.
is called Bucket Detective.
Bucket.
Whoa. This game is by the guy who made that really crazy game, Static Speaks My Name. The one that like,
Oh wow, yeah, that's going back a while.
yeah, I bet this is a
Looks
real this
Creepy
game.
and weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet it's a weird one. Only 45 minutes to complete, which means it's going to be a really bizarre event. I'll have to play it.
Is it
Uh,
VR?
No, it's just
It's just first person.
Yeah, it's almost walking simulator, but or whatever they're calling it now.
First person
PSX?
experience, FPX, I think they're
Yeah.
using for it.
That's what it is.
FPX. Wow. All
Yeah,
right.
I don't mind that. I think it's pretty reasonable.
It's not bad.
The next game is called The Albatross, in which you are an agent who goes under the name The Albatross. And I think that the game winds up being like kind of episodic. Like, okay, you're completing this mission, and now you're completing this mission, and like that kind of an idea.
Yeah, it's a first-person adventure of some description. It appears to have guns in it, I think, and I'm trying to figure out like what the hook is for it, but yeah, it's not exactly made clear by the trailer.
February 17th, we have Homebound, which I think we've seen a couple of times, but it's that game where you're in a space station and the station looks super cool. Oh,
Except
it's like-
you're fighting to survive. It's Gravity the game, isn't
Gravity,
it?
yeah.
I mean, it's like very impressive visually, like
Yeah.
mind-blowing visuals.
The next game is called Mortificatio.
I do like the name of it.
Mortification.
The question is it
I got hit
actually
with
any
a spell,
good though?
sorry.
I don't entirely know what it is, but again, love the thumbnails. So
Yeah, great thumbnail, great name. It looks like it's a first-person exploration, but first-person puzzler. From what I see.
Huh.
this next game looks beautiful in more of
Okay.
like an indie way.
Yeah.
It's called The Moose Man.
All right, the moose. Wow. Okay.
That's cool looking. What?
Yeah.
Hmm. All right. You
Whoa.
can tell it's a really artsy indie game because it has a very thin font. They all
Yes.
have that.
Yes.
A lot of cave painting stuff going on here. Have you noticed that
What type
particular
of
aesthetic?
game is it?
Apparently, you go to different realities or something.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
so far it's just in the trailer anyway, it's just walking, but I'm going to assume that there's actual gameplay. I mean, there may
What
very
are
well
those
not
plants
be.
with the guys going like this on? What's that about? That looks nuts.
Well, apparently there are abilities and stuff that you unlock to get to different places. So you have to find artifacts, unlock new abilities, use them to get to the upper world, learn ancient myths. So I guess there's some puzzle element to it. It looks seriously pretty though.
Yeah. Huh.
Another kind of pretty looking game is called All the Delicate Duplicates.
Okay.
In the game, you inherit a bunch of weird arcane objects, and it says the more they are exposed to them, the more their reality and memories appear to change.
So again, another first kind of. Whoa, God, that's a giant horse head. Fuck. I just skipped to it. It's like horse. Oh! But
Horse.
yeah, yes, apparently so.
It's apparently an open world walking simulator, according to the Steam tags.
Interesting. Yeah, it does look good though. I'll give it that.
Mm.
Whether or not it plays good, not so sure. Whether or not it plays, not so sure about that either.
This next game just looks kind of intriguing and silly. It's called Orbiz.
Top-down game with roguelike elements for single-player and local multiplayer. It's that bloody word again. Top-down. They're just flashing out buzzwords here in the trailer. Oh, that's neat. Yeah, so it's all on a sphere. So it's a kind of top-down twin-stick zombie roguelike shooter thingy, but it's all on a big sphere. So yeah, there's no edge to the level, as it were.
The new Warhammer 40k Space Wolf game.
Wouldn't be another week if we didn't have a new 40k game. I've actually played this one on mobile, and it's surprisingly not bad. I don't know how they're gonna. Yeah, it's more like a collectible tactics game. You build a deck, but they're actual units that you play on a full tactics board. So it ends up playing like Final Fantasy Tactics or whatever. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit when I played it on mobile. It was surprisingly good. But I don't know how they're gonna do the business model on PC. And I honestly didn't play enough of it to figure out whether or not I was going to get super pay to win later on or whatever.
Oh, okay. Yeah, these guys actually reached out to me today for a gig. I don't know if I'll do it, but that's why I was asking.
Well, I can imagine why they didn't reach out to me, because I hate about 90% of Warhammer 40,000 games. I don't actually hate your game, by the way. I liked Space Wolf on mobile anyway. We'll see how it goes on PC.
The next game is called Jet Hero. It's real cute. It says, this is a leisure time game with a little bit of strategy.
and what strategy is that exactly?
I don't know. But
you
it's
picked
cute.
this because there's a fucking cat with a minigun. That's why you picked this.
Because it's cute.
Dodger's curation leaves so
what?
much to be desired.
Look,
now we know why Valve
way
doesn't do
less
it.
garbage than usual.
We do. I'll give you that.
Then the game after that is called Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion. It is free to play.
Yeah, I mean,
Another
that's
spooky
been around
Terrible
for ages,
VR
right?
game. Just never gonna play that one.
Spooky's Jump Scare game.
Why is that? Oh, it's the HD version that's launched. I'm like, that's been around for a while. But yeah,
I
the
wasn't
HD.
sure if it was something different about it or what.
Yeah, it's better looking. It's HD apparently.
The next game is called Northern Regime. It's another survival game where everything looks super foggy. Always. The world is always foggy.
Oh, it's a survival game set in the American Civil War in North Dakota.
Whoa,
Really?
That's a interesting.
Yeah, I haven't heard
survival
of anything like that before. I do wonder how it plays. I mean, right now, obviously, I'd look at it, it just looks like H1Z1.
Yeah, it looks low FPS.
Well, yeah, it's early access.
The fog is an FPS.
That's probably also masking like the rest of the world, but I'm intrigued about that though. The idea of a survival game based in the Civil War is a very interesting idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Period piece survival games.
Cool.
Coming out
That's
2017.
Sure.
And the last game that we have on the list for the 18th is called Munch VR, and it looks cute.
This
The
trailer.
porn game that Jesse was talking about earlier?
No.
You start off as a
It's a game
tiny
I will
fish,
not
and you
play.
have to eat slightly bigger fish, more and more slightly bigger fish, until
playing
you're a huge fish.
I was fine with it until about the last 30 seconds of that trailer and was like, I'm out.
What? They use
Shock.
it starts off with not. Oh, okay. Here we go.
She's putting the Vive on before
Yeah,
she.
I was very confused. I thought maybe this was what Jesse was talking about.
It's like, what on earth is going on here? Yeah, so I imagine you get bigger and bigger, and then you deal with sharks and shit. Yep, that's a giant shark. There we go. And the reaction of the girl in that is very, very similar to the reaction of Jesse, were he put into that situation.
Nope.
This would trigger your stuff, Jesse, as well.
Oh my god! Like it's an
Yes.
unnecessary thing.
Kidding me?
It's that's responsible for my problem. Where's this little happy fish having a good old life, and it's like, have a shark, asshole. No.
But what if you were the shark, Jesse, and you
Oh,
ate
then I'd be
other
fine.
fish?
Oh, then I'd be
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't have a shark, man.
Okay.
If I was the shark man, have you ever thought that maybe you're the shark man?
No, I'm just wondering if that would trigger it. It's funny because I know 3 people that have the same exact phobia you do.
I bet we were all born around the time Jaws was everywhere.
I can't imagine that fear
makes
of
sense.
watery
Over-
death machine is
I
uncommon.
I think you and Wheat are pretty similar in age, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're both
I
45
blame-
years
I blame
old, yes.
My babysitter who played me Jaws 2 when I was like like 4
That is
years old.
horribly irresponsible. Good God. Fucking hell, that explains so much about you.
Although there was a period where I loved sharks, but that's because I also love dinosaurs, and what 8-year-old doesn't love that shit? So,
Yeah,
Good question.
dinosaurs are pretty rad.
and then I saw oceans and was like, nope, not even gonna do that shit.
Oh, fuck
dear.
that.
Mm.
Well, that pretty much wraps us up, folks. There we go. We trimmed down the release list a little bit. We'll try and do that again in future episodes. A little bit better, hopefully.
How dare you?
I'm questioning your taste.
No.
Yeah, much better. Or maybe it was just a good week. Who knows? I need to go through and find out the ones that you cut out and see whether or not there's actually like a bevy of
That's
really
the
great
trick,
games in
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
You'll love me afterwards. You'll be like, shit.
I'm
You kept me from going through a lot of pain.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure that I'll realize it was all for the best in the long run. Regardless, I'd love to tell you what's going on over the next week or so. So we'll start with Mr. JP and his litany of shows. We could be here for a while. What's going on over the next week?
Drop frames tomorrow, 5:00 Eastern. What Nebula Jazz on Saturday at now that I have a schedule, like an actual website, I forget the time. 4:00 Eastern,
Yes.
I think so.
Mm.
That is what time it is.
Also, this Saturday is the 4-year anniversary of Roleplay, so that's cool.
Aw.
Aw.
Yeah, we're celebrating that with our live show on the 24th, right? Is it 24th, 5th? Let me look. The 25th next week with a Roleplay live show for Roleplay Swan Song. So myself, DJ Wheat, and Control, Matthew Mercer, and DM Adam Coble will be there,
Very cool.
and that's a lot of stuff. And then I'll probably be finishing Neo, and I think I'm going to check out some Sniper Elite 4 thanks to TB's recommendation.
Yeah, it's fun.
and
You'll
play some
enjoy it.
co-op.
Yeah.
Probably check some co-op out of that, see what it's like. So that's that. And then just daily streams. I'll probably be playing some more Neo tonight. So if you want to check it out as well.
Nice. Jazzy, what you got?
More Scary Game Squad stuff is coming. I desperately am gonna finish a few games, and I found at least 2 games that I want to check out today. I definitely want to play the Moose Man. I'm really excited
yeah.
to check out that game.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Yeah, that should be coming. Hopefully, God willing.
Maybe a little bit more nvisigun on stream, maybe, just maybe?
Dude, yeah, I'll trade
That's
you.
fun.
I'll trade
play
you some Visigun for some pit people.
We can do that. Yeah. I'm cool with that.
Wink.
Indeed. Dodger.
Anime news, gaming news, all kinds of garbage. Please come check out my YouTube. Also, I stream at twitch.tv/dexbonus. I stream most days, so I'd love to see you. And on all the social medias, I'm at dexbonus. So come hang out. It's a cool, chill time, unless it's not.
Disclaimers aplenty. Can't argue with
Great
that.
disclaimer.
Yeah.
It might
I'm
be
just going
good,
to end
but
everything in
sometimes no.
terms of shout-outs anymore, unless it doesn't happen.
Indeed.
Super chill, unless I'm not.
And then no one can get mad at me.
Unless
ever.
I'm
I'm
just
a
a
perfectly
giant
pleasant
dick.
person until I'm not anymore.
Indeed.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, we're sure possibly she'll fix her audio for next week. She does it. She got the thing. The new thing is here.
It's right here.
This will fix it. I hope. I fucking hope so, because otherwise we're going to find a new
Me
VoIP
too.
client.
You put a lot of hope and joy in my heart, and if you take it all away now, it'll be so sad.
No, it's not my responsibility to set up your audio. You're a professional. You should be doing this yourself. You should know all of this stuff already. God damn it.
I don't know dick about audio, guys.
Ah.
Fuck.
No,
I
man,
know. That's why
audio's
you
the
became a
devil of-
streamer like everyone else.
Audio's the devil of content creation.
Weirdly enough, we've been having a big sort of, over the last couple of weeks, groundswell of we all need to upgrade our audio gear thing lately. Strip and bought a compressor. He doesn't know how to use it, but, you know.
Yeah, he messaged me to tell him how to hook that up. That's right.
Yep, he messaged me as well. We tried to set it up, but he has a little preamp, the tiny little cloud lifter that's nowhere near enough to give the welly to a SM7B that it needs to give the input to actually make the compressor sound good. So I'm like saying, oh, you need a preamp and all that stuff. So I don't even know if his compressor works, but whatever.
No.
But you and Jesse just bought baby faces, and I've started using my compressor.
I
and
just like that it's called Babyface.
Yeah, you might have sold me on the baby face. I might have
it's a
checked it
good
out.
piece of kit, man. It really is.
I started looking into reference monitors. Do you know how expensive reference monitors are?
I know
Really?
exactly how expensive reference monitors are because my brother, who did music production at university, has them. And I'm like, nope. I'll stick with the headphones. Thank you very much.
A 25-inch OLED Sony reference monitor is like $25,000.
Oh, wow. So you're talking about reference monitors as in monitors, not reference monitor speakers.
Not speakers. Yeah, I went video.
Because I was going to say reference monitor speakers are expensive enough. Fuck that. If I like buying those, no.
$25K.
I'll stick with my fucking TN panel. I'm basically half blind anyway. I don't care.
We're renting one for the live show because we're tired of like having it look good on our monitor. Then we go live. It's like, actually, that's really red. Like, fuck.
I mean, I have the same problem with it sounded good on my system, and then people are like, I can't hear the music. It's like, oh, I forget I'm using $400 headphones and an $800 interface, and I do this for a living. And they're like, I can't hear it on my iPhone. Weirdly enough, actually, that's
Who is this person?
That's Danny O'Dwyer, obviously.
I can't hear it in my iPhone.
Been.
Also, I forgot to tell you guys, Neo is the story of Danny O'Dwyer finding a time machine and going back in time.
Danny O'Dwyer, the Western Samurai.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense now.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. I'll stick with my TN panel. I'm half blind anyway, but
I'm expecting this thing to do like magic in front of me, so we'll see what happens when we get it next week.
You'll realize that all your assets are just shit, and now you have to go buy new ones. Like, wow, we never knew.
He's gonna show a picture of my face, and I'll just be like, "That's what I look like." Fuck.
It's like you try and put your webcam up there, and the monitor just shuts off in protest. It's like, nope, I will not be besmirched by such tomfoolery. Nope.
Pretty much. I'll probably borrow it for my setup to hone in on.
I can't see it on the reference monitor. Oh, Jesus. Play nvisigun Heroes, you fucks. I'm just saying. There'll be a video on it next couple of days.
Heroes. ... You
fucks.
TotalBiscuit 2017.
That's my ringing fucking endorsement. I understand that there is something of a risk when it comes to buying a game that doesn't have a large community, but just bear this in mind, you have a 2-hour Steam refund window. So really, the risk isn't actually that high, is it? If you can't find people to play it with, feel free to refund it. The game is fucking great. It's really, really good. And I'm going to keep playing it and making videos of it until you bastards buy it.
Now that's a Steam community.
There you go.
Right
Steam Curator.
Top
Steam Curator. Right here.
Angry endorsed game.
I've transitioned into bullying people into buying video games. That's all my curator is just, you are a worthless shit. But with this game, a shred of dignity can be reclaimed.
God damn it.
In fact, I'm gonna put that.
Copy paste.
All right.
Copy paste.
Okay, I'm doing it. Right, where's my Steam? I'm doing it. I'm gonna make that recommendation.
Thanks
Am I
for
allowed
watching
to
the
swear?
podcast, everybody.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I'm putting it on Steam under my curator right now. It's gonna happen. Regardless of that, possibly also videos of Halcyon 6, Sniper Elite 4, Holy Potatoes Were in Space, looking at For Honor. I got a shit ton of stuff to do, and it probably won't all get done. Go watch my Banner Saga video, because that game's great as well. We're about done, folks. Thank you very much for watching the show. Buy my StarCraft 2 voice pack, and one last thing! The Humble Bundle is offering about 1 million games for $30, or at least it was, but I assume it still is doing that. It probably is now. The Freedom Bundle, ladies and gentlemen, with proceeds going to the ACLU, and yes, they do support people on both sides of the fence. Lots of really good games in there. well worth it. So go and have a look at humblebundle.com and have a look at the Freedom Bundle. Loads of really great games in there if you so desire. We're done. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Big thanks to our special guest, JP, one more time. That puts
It's
him...
me, JP.
It puts him at about like 9 times on the show or something along those lines. I don't know. What can I say? He's a whore for attention, and that's why he is a success.
Just like us.
Indeed. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
I'm a whore. For success.
Yeah.